Good morning. Anthony Del Toro, good morning. Open space behind me. I think I need some Bad Bunny. Oh, let's see. Pride Day. Anthony, the Astros didn't play last night. What are you talking about? You talking about the series against Texas in general? Oh, yeah. The weekend sucked for the Astros. They need to get well soon, which is tonight against the Dodgers. Tracy Bogert, good morning. Hector Gomez, good morning. Okay, here we go. Let's do a little radio show.
This is the Chris Duel Show.
You know the day destroys the night. Night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide.
What up, Sam Tobias?
Now, Chris Duel.
Welcome into a Taco Tuesday, the final, I do believe, final Taco Tuesday of the month of May, as we have darn near exhausted the month of May, which absolutely blows my mind. Welcome in. I let the Doors and Mr. Mojo Rison, the Lizard King, Jim Morrison, member of the 27 Club, finish. It's the Chris Duel Show, along with Shannon Salty Sweeney. So much going on in the world of sports. Had a couple other NBA games last night. Milwaukee Bucks take a 2-0 lead over the Miami Heat. They beat them by 34 points in Milwaukee. Things looking good early in that series for the Bucks. Nuggets at home tie up the Portland Trailblazers at 1-1. Nuggets beat the Blazers 128-109. 3 games on tap tonight in the NBA. The Brooklyn Nets hosting the Boston Celtics. Brooklyn leads 1-0. Phoenix Suns host the LA Lakers. Suns lead 1-0. And the Los Angeles Clippers host Shannon Salty Sweeney's Denver Nuggets. As Kawhi laughs at us, he's laughing at all of us, especially you Spurs fans, as we sit at home and Kawhi Leonard just keeps on keeping on in the playoffs. Shannon, how you doing this morning?
I'm feeling good. However, I'm not feeling too confident. Very happy the Mavericks went out and won that first match. But I'm looking at our poll question this morning in which we are asking both LA teams risk an 0-2 hole tonight in the NBA playoffs. How will the games play out? And I feel very strongly about the Clippers finding a way to win, playing on their home floor once again tonight, and the Lakers lose in Phoenix. So that's where my vote is going today. Head over to AM 1300 Zone Ticket 760 Twitter polls and check it out this morning. A lot of people, however, thinking both the Clippers and Lakers win early in our poll today.
Yeah, and the LA teams, which many of us love to hate, they tend to, and probably for the same reason you feel a bit pessimistic about your Mavericks chances tonight in Los Angeles. That's probably what a lot of people are thinking. Well, it's inevitable, and it would be a huge shock for either of these teams to go down 0-2. But with both of them facing an 0-1 hole, maybe it happens. Maybe one, or shockingly, if it happened, both would go down 0-2. What drives me crazy tonight, 3 games, 2 of them on TNT. Thank you. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. I love the TNT panel. I could watch them all night long. But the one game I want to watch, Clippers Mavericks. It's the late game at 9:40. It's the latest of the 3. NBA TV. I don't have NBA TV. Why would they put a playoff game on NBA TV when you've got other options? It sucks.
That can't be right. Not even ABC or ESPN.
No. Based on what I read this morning, a doubleheader on TNT, Brooklyn, Boston at 6:40, then Lakers, Suns at 9:10, and at 9:40, Mavericks, Clippers on NBA TV. And you and I wake up at like 3 a.m, so sure. I can't be going to no sports bar at 9:40 tonight to watch. Yeah, I could have at home just kind of watched the first half and then passed out, but oh well. First world problems.
Yeah, and to back up my point here, Vegas stands with me today. How they have the Clippers favored at 6.5.
Ooh.
So they're seeing something along the lines that I'm seeing, and Lakers are actually favored by 2, but that's not a lot when you have LeBron James and AD on your team.
Clippers favored by 6.5. That's crazy. After you lost game 1,
and they're 6, so they're trending in the wrong way, Mavs fans.
Yeah. So Lakers by 1.5. Now that's a road game, so I get that. Wow. And Brooklyn Nets a 9.5 point favorite over the Celtics, which I guess makes sense. Nothing there to suggest the Celtics are going to break through in that one. So we'll talk a little NBA this morning. Certainly it is NBA time. There's a lot going on in the world of sports. Julio Jones, wide receiver, Atlanta Falcons, making some noise yesterday on television with Shannon Sharp over the weekend. And Shannon, you and I did see this. He's somebody in an airport, might have been the Dallas airport, saw Julio Jones wearing a Dallas Cowboys t-shirt, and we didn't talk about that yesterday, but we saw it over the weekend, and now Julio's back in the news because he's making some more noise publicly. But How weird is that? I'm a Cowboy fan. I love it. I think that's cool. I got a kick out of it, but you're an NFL wide receiver throughout your career with the Atlanta Falcons, and you go wear a Cowboys t-shirt? That just seems weird to me.
I'm going to reach. And I'm going to say it's very similar to us seeing OBJ in Arizona wearing a Cardinals shirt while he was in Arizona and was working out in the area. And people were like, oh, he's coming to the Cardinals. He's coming to the Cardinals. Well, of course, we all know now he's with the Browns. There's word that behind the scenes, he's let the Atlanta Falcons know that he no longer wishes to be a part of that team or organization. So they've been quietly trying to trade him. Hasn't worked out so far. June 1st is coming up. So I think he may just be ruffling some feathers because it makes even less sense now that he would just wear a Cowboy shirt after the comments he made yesterday.
Yeah. In yesterday's comments, apparently Shannon Sharp and I forget what the name of that is with Skip Bayless.
Undisputed.
Thank you for that. Undisputed with Skip Bayless. Shannon Sharp had Julio Jones on the phone And apparently, and Shannon was kind of egging him on in this direction. So, said, hey, we saw you with the Cowboy shirt. And first of all, he said, I want out essentially of Atlanta on this phone call with Shannon Sharp. And then Shannon Sharp says, well, where do you want to go? And Julio Jones says, well, I want to go win somewhere. I want to go win. And then Shannon Sharp says, well, then you don't want to go to Dallas. So we shall see. You got to wonder as well. And Aaron Rodgers was in the news. Aaron Rodgers went on I guess it was the farewell on ESPN broadcast of Kenny Mayne, which is really weird, Shannon, that ESPN would essentially blow out Kenny Mayne, and yet then after the fact, they saw the outpouring of fan love for him and people not wanting to see him go. So they allow him to do Sports Center. And after that relationship ends, throughout my radio career and being a keen observer of media over the years, usually when a company decides you are no longer going to be with that company, you usually don't get a farewell broadcast because often it's human nature. You might take some parting shots at the parent company. I guess they kind of had an understanding that Kenny wouldn't do that. But the big story was Aaron Rodgers came on and talked to Kenny Mayne yesterday. And among other things, he said he has nothing against Jordan Love or the decision to get Jordan Love. He called Jordan Love a good kid. He said, I liked him. But he kind of said something to the effect of, there's kind of a skewed understanding of what a corporation is. Is it the hierarchy of the corporation, or is it the people who built this corporation? And Aaron Rodgers seemed to be saying, and my understanding is he has issues with the general manager. He kind of seemed to be saying that management was out of touch with the people, in that case, him and the players, and I think by extension, Packer fans.
Throwing in the fans is interesting. This is certainly an interesting way to go. It was hard to take the interview seriously, in all honesty, because dude is still in Hawaii. He's growing out the hair.
Yeah.
He's laying back. It's almost like he called him via FaceTime. It's almost like the Shannon Sharp conversation just on video, like just two guys chatting it up. Because, things have been quiet lately for whatever reason, whether or not he's just in Hawaii and both sides are just done, or I don't know, but he is expected to be skipping some workouts coming up. So it still seems like they would be parting ways in my eyes.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. So now, and the reason I brought up Aaron Rodgers, and we're going to do our contest here in a moment, and maybe we'll dive back into it, but you got Julio Jones out there, and if you've got a Packer franchise trying to make things right with Aaron Rodgers, I don't know the salary cap implications. My understanding is a team would have to pay Julio Jones his full contract, which is pretty hefty for a wide receiver. But I think part of what Green Bay would want to do if they're going to try to keep Aaron Rodgers is get him happy. And I think a peace offering could be a Pro Bowl wide receiver like Julio Jones. We'll get more into that. There's all kinds of stuff going on in the world of sports as we head into this Taco Tuesday, including a series between the Houston Astros and the LA Dodgers getting underway tonight at Minute Maid Park. We'll get into that. But right now, we do this contest on this show at 6:20 and at 7:20, and we actually do it 12 times throughout the day on the 20s, both at AM 1300 The Zone and Ticket 760. It's the Grand in Your Hand cash contest. You're going to get a keyword. You go to either website, whatever station you're listening to, Ticket 760 or AM 1300 The Zone. You pop that keyword onto the website. You click on where it says Grand in Your Hand cash contest, and you're in the running to win $1,000. Why the heck not? Somebody's going to win it. It may as well be you. Here comes the keyword.
Here's your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Trip. That's trip. Enter it now.
Trip. Trip would be your keyword. Chris Duel Show along with Shannon Salty Sweeney. By the way, let's say hello to Dave Ayler, your trusty and ever-present soundscape stylist, who on Metal Mondays, you wear a cool metal t-shirt. Yesterday, Suicidal Tendencies. Today, nondescript, nothing. Just a plain old t-shirt with
a shirt with nothing on it.
It is, if you think about it, it's so weird. It's like I'm looking at Shannon. Shannon's got a Sugar Bowl logo on her apparel. I've got Houston. It is kind of weird, Houston Astros, to finish my sentence. It is kind of weird to wear a plain shirt these days without an insignia, logo, or brand.
Well, they're hard to find. It usually has either the name of the company that made the shirt or Houston, or a sports team or something on it.
So I kind of like it. You're kind of being a nonconformist.
I'm an iconoclastic.
See, to hell with this. I don't need no damn team on my shirt or a band. I'm Dave Ayler, baby.
Just put my own name on there.
Yes. Get your own brand of apparel. And by the way, and I didn't even notice this until it was pointed out on Facebook Live, and it goes for all three of us. Anthony Del Toro says on Facebook, what is this? No cap wearing Tuesday? This may be the first time that I, Shannon, and you, Dave Ayler, none of us are wearing a cap or a baseball cap of any kind.
Tuesday is typically a day I do wear a hat, so that's a very great observation.
I wanted to show off my bald head.
Yeah, I got my Manu Ginobili bald spot back here. And see, and I usually wake up and I'm having a bad hair decade. I'm having a bad hair century. I had really good hair in 1988. I've got photos. I can prove it. But since 1988, it's kind of gone south. So, I mean, I get up in the morning and my hair is just so weird. So, I mean, I look like the Nick Nolte mugshot that I just go, I can't subject Facebook Live to this. So, if it looks like crap, cover it up. And my hair usually looks like crap. And not that it doesn't. I mean, I'm looking at it now. It ain't pretty, but at least it's not doing its Nick Nolte thing. So I thought, well, all right, I'll go without a cap.
And the time we have to wake up in the morning, I just don't care. We're all out of bed at 2:30 in the morning, combing my hair and looking halfway decent is the last thing on my mind.
Well, see, I don't care either, but we're on Facebook Live. So I feel bad. It's almost like it's like you're going to a party and the party's on Facebook Live, and what, we're not going to we're going to have like crappy hair and not dress up and drool from our sleep dripping down our chin. I mean, what are we going to do?
I think everybody on Facebook Live that watches us on a regular basis are used to seeing us look like hell.
That's a good point. We are on radio. There's a reason we're on radio and not television.
Oh yeah.
But if we're on Facebook, so
and the paycheck too.
Yeah.
Well, because we're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, there is the ability to go back and look at previous shows.
Yes.
So if someone is really into it, they can go and confirm that this is the first Tuesday in which none of us are wearing hats. I like it. I think it means we all felt confident in the way our hair and the rest of our head was looking this morning.
Yes,
I'll go with it.
I like it. And you've got the hair, Shannon, kind of coming down over one shoulder.
Oh, it's so long.
Kind of cool.
Now I need a haircut.
Yeah,
that's why I've been throwing it over because it gets stuck. Like I lean back and stretch, and then it's caught in my chair.
Oh no,
female problem.
That's no fun.
I haven't had that problem in a long time.
Yeah, like the 1970s for me. Long time ago. Welcome everybody on Facebook Live. I see Laura Burris, Clint Proctor, Jason Garcia, Lucinda Sullivan, John Williams from Dallas, Victor Gomez, Roger Salazar, Michelle Johnson from Marysville, Kansas. Michelle, for the moment, since Taro Kotani is not in here from Tokyo, or Ofa Lin from Singapore, or Brad George from Australia, Michelle Johnson, I think you were the current distance holder on Facebook Live, coming at us from Marysville, Kansas. So welcome on Facebook Live. As Shannon mentioned, there's a lot of ways you can access the show. Streaming live video on Facebook Live. And what's cool about that is, hello, Greg Helt, you just jumped in there. What's cool about that is you're not just interacting with us in real time. You're often interacting with some very, very cool people who are out there. So we enjoy that. And you can also access the video via YouTube, via Twitch. We are all over the place. Coming up, it is the high five play of the day. If you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, you want to do high fives and cartwheels, I do believe, when you hear the high five play of the day. A little bit later, Shannon's Salty Shakedown, this day in sports history, sports birthdays. Tanner Carlson, the Tan Man, the Monkey Man, going to come in here at about just after 8 o'clock. There he is. Actual audio of Tanner just outside the studio, getting ready to come in. You are welcome to join us, not only on Facebook Live, but you can jump on the phone lines as well. 800-707-9760. We do take your phone calls. We will talk with you about sports, or actually, whatever's on your mind, because it's an open forum and we're interested in all kinds of stuff. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. He is the non-insignia wearing soundscape stylist, Super Dave Ayler. I'm Chris. Thanks for hanging out with us till 9 o'clock this morning on the Chris Duel Show. Julio Reyes. Julio Reyes, one of the greatest runners in the history of San Antonio. Julio Reyes, who was once involved with one of my high school crushes. Did you know this, Julio Reyes? Remember a woman named Jenny who you had a thing with? I knew her well in high school. Ralph Balderas. Good morning. All right. Now what? Do I need more coffee? Again, I'm schizophrenic, but you knew that. Hot coffee in honor of Lucinda Sullivan, who is our patron saint of hot coffee. And it's not that hot. I microwaved it at like 5 till 6, and it's 6:28. But I got iced tea. So I'm just, if I can guzzle caffeine, if I could have an IV and just have it on a pole behind me, the IV, and just run it right into my veins, pure caffeine, I would do it. Because I'm not a morning person. Okay. I think I'm going to go get more caffeine on principle. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Shannon. I just saw that audio. Is that? We'll fire that up. And yeah, we should play that because that was a big deal. Dave, Shannon in the comments sent a tweet which has a minute 36 of audio. It's Shannon Sharp talking to who? Oh, cool. Yeah. So maybe since we've got the salty shake or since we've got high five coming up, maybe just after 7. Maybe that'll be something we jump back into after 7. Oh, okay. Cool. Thank you. Good idea. All right. I am on a quest for coffee. Coffee run number 4. Actually, Sam, you know, you're probably right because I wake up and I go get coffee. And then I do a little prep. Then I go get breakfast and I get coffee. So that's 2. And so then I came here to work and I had a 3rd cup. That's 3. So Sam Tobias, you know me well, sir. This is coffee run numero 4. Notice that little Espanol there, doing the whole show in Spanish on 16. Quest for Coffee, a new segment. Yes. Because you got to have a quest. A quest is good. It's good to have a quest. By Jose Altuve. That's right. Beat the Dodgers. Dirtbag Dodgers. You whiners. You can't let it go that you lost the 2017 series to the Astros. We are going down. Dodgers. Scumbags. Scum of the earth. It is an Astros game day. I need to get Cardboard Breggy involved. Oh! Yes, there is talk about that. We should get into that. Yes. Clint Proctor says 4 cups of coffee should keep you extremely regular. Thank you, Dr. Proctor. Was that the first ever series sweep? Oh, since 2016, Jason. Okay. Yeah, I'm not happy about that. See, how many is this, a 4-game series against the Dodgers? Let me pull this up. Hopefully the Astros will get well soon, as in tonight. Interesting pitchers. Clayton Kershaw on the mound for the Dodgers, always interesting. Zach Greinke, who makes me cranky, on the mound for the Astros. Zach Greinke 4-1. Okay. Yeah, and so many of those games against the Rangers were tight or extra innings. Yeah, 2 of them went 10 innings. So one, a 3-2 loss on Sunday in 10. Friday night, a 7-5 loss in 10. So, yeah, no bueno. Okay. Ooh, 2 games against the Dodgers. What the hell? Who makes this schedule? And then 3 against San Diego. And then 3 against the Boston Red Sox. Wow. Then 3 against Toronto, then 3 more at Fenway against Boston. So 7 games against the Red Sox in 10 between May 31st and June 10th. Well, my goodness. I thought this was at least a 3-game series against the Dodgers. It's only 2. Fair enough. Beat their butts. Whiners. Craig Helt, who's my pick for the NBA Finals? At the moment, Brooklyn. And if the Lakers lose tonight, I might I still got to go Lakers until somebody proves it to me. Classic. What I like about you. What I like about the LA Dodgers. Nothing. Whiners. Hey, you were stealing our shines in 20. Shut up and win the games. You lost. Astros won. Get over it. Astros Dodgers tonight, Shannon, at Minute Maid Park. First pitch, 7:10. It is on Fox Sports 1, so you can catch it on TV. Thank God that's on TV, unlike Mavericks Clippers on NBA TV.
Yeah.
But anyway, Clayton Kershaw on the mound for the Dodgers. Zach Greinke, please don't make me cranky, on the mound for Houston. And I was talking about it during the break, Shannon. Only a 2-game series. I was thinking 3 or 4. Dodgers, Astros. Nope, just 2 games tonight and tomorrow night at Minute Maid Park.
Yeah,
so
I'm disappointed they're playing in Minute Maid after last week. We got the organist at Dodger Stadium to play. I saw the sign for former Astro player Josh Reddick, who is now with the Arizona Diamondbacks. So I was kind of like, oh, this is gonna be they're going to step it up here. Like they got to. There's got to be a song for everybody now. But unfortunately, they're playing him in It won't be at Dodger Stadium for another 2-game series until August, beginning of August.
That is something to look for, though.
Yeah,
in August, let's pay close attention to the Dodger Stadium organist.
Yeah. Do they travel well when it's not the World Series?
The Dodgers?
Yeah. Or are they beloved enough because they're out in LA that maybe we'll get a few of them?
I think they do. They're kind of, as you know, a national brand. Certainly not quite the Yankees or maybe even the Red Sox, but from a West Coast perspective, I think they do travel.
Okay.
Or at least
see some more heckling.
Yes. Well, again, though, you heckle in Minute Maid Park, and I think you heckle at your own peril. But and I wonder. I've got to look into that more because I'm sure there's always opposing fans at any Major League Baseball game, and certainly there will be and are when the Astros play at Minute Maid Park. I wonder, like, if somebody pulls out a trash can and starts beating on it or heckling the Astros for the cheating scandal, what do other Astros fans in the vicinity do? Do they let it go? Do they laugh? Do they heckle the fans back? Or, this is Texas, does it get a little violent? I don't know.
I don't see Astros fans as being as bad as, up in Boston.
No.
Or the Yankees. I'd love, heckling back, a little, as long as nothing has to get physical here.
No. Good-natured fun.
As long as you're not disturbing what's on the field of play. Whatever. I'd love to see cell phone footage of that. Yeah.
So it'll be that's appointment television for me tonight. Fox Sports 1, 7:10 first pitch, Astros Dodgers. Hopefully the Astros will get things going. All right. It is time. We do this in the morning at this time every morning, Monday through Friday, so that no matter what, there's always somebody in sports, and sometimes we move it out of the world of sports, but it's usually in the world of sports. There is either somebody who deserves a high five or a reason why we as fans should high five one another. I think this one would involve someone who deserves a high five. And I do believe if you're a Cowboys fan, you maybe want to start high fiving other Cowboys fan. It is the high five play of the day, and high five not only the namesake of the segment, but an incredible sporting, dining, drinking, axe throwing, gaming venue, 2 locations in Austin. And quite frequently you can find Shannon Salty Sweeney there, maybe even hosting an Austin FC watch party as she did on Sunday night.
Maybe there could potentially be another one on the horizon. I want to correct myself from earlier. They do have kid-free zones and specific hours, but it is very family friendly with the bowling and the laser tag, which on Tuesday is $2 a round. You've also got $2 domestic beers and $2 tacos. Because again,
Taco Tuesday.
So high five. There's no bad day of the week to make an appearance at one of their 2 Austin area locations, one on Anderson and one out in Lakeway, which I'm hoping to get over to later this week for the first time. I'm excited to check it out. And Chris, today's story, you sent this to me, and I love the quote. I love everything about it. Hype up the Cowboys fans. We're almost into June. Football season is basically here.
What? So am I doing this one?
Oh, I thought you were.
You were probably. I was just automatically. I thought you. Dak Prescott shows up. It is OTA time for the Dallas Cowboys, and Dak Prescott is out there throwing the football. He is out there doing drills. There's photos of him. In fact, we made it part of our show photo today, an actual photo of Dak Prescott in Frisco at the OTA session, and as part of that. He put out an Instagram post, and you just have to love the attitude of Dak Prescott. He has a series of photos of himself throwing the football, looking outstanding. And the line he writes, very simple, just a few words. Dak writes on Instagram, "Dear adversity, thank you for the opportunity." And Shannon, I think for Dak, for any athlete, for anybody in life, I think this is a life lesson about attitude. You guaranteed you are going to have adversity. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have bad years. You're going to have bad events. You may lose your job. You may lose a relationship. Something you may get in a car wreck. Something may go south. You may get injured. like Dak Prescott was. It was a horrific injury, and you can either lament it, you can either be the victim and say, woe is me, doesn't my life suck? Or you can say, hey, man, this is life. Life is full of challenges, and I am going to meet this challenge, and I am going to come back better than I was before. Hence, Dax Line, dear adversity, thank you for the opportunity. I love it. I most of us love Dak Prescott, Shannon, and just add this to a growing list of reasons why we should love Dak Prescott.
It's pure poetry, and I know there's some haters out there who would look at that and maybe roll their eyes because it feels very much like an Instagram caption, you know, when as you're taking the picture, just thinking about what you're gonna say with it. But look, he's gone through plenty of adversity in his life, and you know this is just the latest one. This ankle injury, I love the photo. That's full body. You know that foot is on full display in both of those pictures. So I'm super excited to see him back on the field. He was wearing pads, he was wearing his helmet, and he was throwing with his teammates. I very much agree. Attitude. I think that also leads to the Tim Tebow discussion lately. I don't think people credit having a good attitude, especially in your work environment, enough as they should. It's like looking at the NFL, all the people that are considered headaches or guys that aren't getting these second opportunities like Tebow is, are because they don't have the right attitude when they're not on the field or when something doesn't go their way. So huge props to Dak for looking at this from that lens, because it'd be very easy to be that guy, right? I think he's the favorite this year to be comeback player of the year. So, I mean, already an awards favorite. Why not add MVP to that at this point? I mean, come on.
Yes.
Cowboys Nation.
And it reminds me, and there are some Chinese scholars who dispute this, but it's long been said that there is a you know, in Chinese script, in Chinese writing, that the word crisis contains elements of both the word danger, kind of the symbol for danger, and the symbol for opportunity. That's kind of been an accepted view of what that symbol is in the Chinese language. Obviously, some Chinese scholars go, no, you got it wrong, and here's why, and they get into it. You can Google it and figure it out. But the theory behind it, I think, is so true. When you have a crisis, and Dak Prescott had a physical crisis, and we will all have crises in our lives, there is danger, but there is also opportunity, and you overcome it. And as you overcome it, you learn from it. You tend to appreciate life better, having overcome adversity like this, as Dak Prescott has. And there comes wisdom as well. You know, as far as Dak Prescott, maybe he's going to be a little wiser with his body. I remember Roger Staubach early on, and it drove Tom Landry crazy. Roger, he was known as Roger the Dodger. He was a scrambling quarterback. When the pocket broke down, Roger would run. And it happened a lot, and it served Roger well. Roger was a great athlete at the Naval Academy, where he won the Heisman Trophy early on with the Cowboys. But the summer after Roger won his first Super Bowl, Super Bowl VI against the Miami Dolphins, in preseason, the next summer, again in the LA Coliseum, and oh, by the way, the Cowboys were wearing blue jerseys that night. Roger decides to scramble, and he is smashed by an LA Rams defensive lineman named Marlon McKeever. Marlon McKeever separates Roger's shoulder. Roger is out for the year. At least that was the diagnosis. He's out for the year with a separated shoulder. Craig Morton, the other Cowboy quarterback, comes in. He's quarterback for the rest of the year. Now, little side note, quickly, and then I'll go back to what happened with Roger as far as wisdom after the injury. Roger is out for the whole year. Cowboys go into the playoffs. In the first round of the playoffs, they're at Candlestick Park in San Francisco. They're playing the 49ers. They're in effect, it's the second half, and they're down 28-13. Looks like the Niners are going to win the game. Tom Landry says, Roger, go in there. Roger leads the Cowboys to 2 touchdown passes, one to Billy Parks, the winner to Ron Sellers. Cowboys win 30-28 and advance in the 1972 playoffs. But and I'm bringing this up about Dak and the way that, Dak kind of maybe moves and was elusive and be a little more reckless with his body. Ever since that shoulder separation, yes, Roger would still scramble, but he scrambled less and he was more careful with his body. He wouldn't lean down and try to run over a linebacker or a cornerback or a defensive lineman. So Roger never lost his scrambling desires or skills, but he became much more discerning about A, when he would scramble, he scrambled less, and B, he would scramble to the open field and often, for the first time in his career, dive into an opening on the grass as opposed to take on a defender and maybe separate the shoulder again. So I have a feeling that with this injury, in addition to everything else, Dak Prescott, the way he moves and eludes defenders in the pocket is going to be a little safer than it was maybe last season.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. There's a difference in doing that and then doing what everyone fears when you get a guy who's typically pretty mobile and in a position like that where they play timid or they play soft or they're just not up to par because they're worried about their body versus playing in a way that'll suit their body better, like you mentioned with Roger Staubach. So I see that in Dak. And again, this guy's overcome so much adversity. There's no reason he can't come back stronger than he was last year.
Now, I was complaining, as I often do. I was complaining about the Mavericks and the Clippers are on NBA TV tonight. I just saw on Facebook Live, and I'm going to run this down. I don't know if this is the case, but it's an interesting thought. Mike Garcia on Facebook Live says the Mavericks game should be on Bally Sports Southwest. Now, well, it used to be Fox Sports Southwest in the San Antonio area, and they carry Spurs games typically, but the Spurs are done. So, but Rick Renner and that whole crew, they also carry in the Dallas area Dallas Mavericks games. So I'm hoping, Mike Garcia, it's a good thought, and I'll go try to run down the Bally Sports schedule. I'm hoping that in the San Antonio and even Austin areas, that Bally Sports Southwest can be found with tonight's Clippers Dallas Mavericks game. Because Shannon, even though you are not optimistic about the Mavericks' chances to get 2 in a row on the Clippers home court tonight at Staples Center, man, if they do, because my big thing is Texas arenas can have more fans. We can go 100% now. And oh, by the way, wasn't that a big story yesterday in Austin FC? As I digress, you want to jump in with that real quick?
Sure. Yeah, they announced yesterday the home opener June 19th will be at 100% capacity, and they plan on keeping it that way throughout the season. Also, the U.S. Women's National Team, who plays 3 days before June 16th to officially open the stadium as the first professional team to play on that field. Also 100% capacity. I believe those tickets go on sale later this week. And March 27th, single game tickets are going to be available, I believe, for the first 6 home games for Austin FC. So for anyone on that list of, I believe it's now up to 21,000 people on the waiting list for season tickets, your opportunity to grab some later this week. And
if you can't get tickets, we want all 21,000 of you to go to Shannon's watch party at High Five.
Look how we ended that. Look, we're perfect.
Woo!
You see that circling? Getting back to the original point. High five.
Woo! High five, everybody. But now back to my point real quick, though. If the Mavericks can win tonight, you're then going back to Dallas for at least for 2 games. Yeah, well, it would be more than 2 games because you'd still come back you guarantee a game 6. So yeah, no, unless you shut them down in 2. But I believe because as in Austin, 100% capacity, I'm imagining that you could do that at the American Airlines Center as well in Dallas. So in a COVID year, that there wasn't a true home court advantage and a number of NBA teams benefited by playing better on the road. Man, if the Mavericks get the win tonight, and I know, as you mentioned, 6.5 point underdogs, but damn near series over. I don't think the Clippers, the way they're playing, are going to win 4 out of 5 against the Mavericks, 3 of those on the road, and that would be what they would have to do if they lose tonight. So fascinating game. And
I'm looking at Fox Sports Southwest because it's still Southwest, I think, in our area,
okay,
FS1 channel. I could be wrong, but I'm seeing that the Dodgers Astros game is going to be what's on at that time.
See, now that is, but that's FS1 versus. versus Fox Sports Southwest, which at least down here in San Antonio are two separate channels. But we'll check that. But either way, I would.
Using NBA.
I know.
God.
Well, now they flipped the name of it to Bally Sports, which I'm going to be calling it Fox Sports Southwest for the next 25 years. But we'll check it. Anyway, Mike Garcia, good idea, man. I hope you're right, but we'll see what we can find out. Coming up, we will hear the audio between Julio Jones and Shannon Sharpe, and an interesting double standard, I think, in the WNBA. A coach is suspended for making fun of a player's weight. Ooh, we'll get into that and a whole lot more on the Chris Duel Show. Yeah, I think, let me see. Bally Sports Southwest. Let me see if they've got a... There's their Twitter. And they are home of the Mavericks and the Spurs. Valley Sports Regions.
Do you have me in queue?
Southwest. Very slow-moving website. No programming. Yeah, they have a crappy website.
You haven't put me in queue.
They should. Didn't hear you. Oh, 1 sec. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, Shannon, I'm in queue, or you're in queue.
So I've got my trusty. I have Spectrum for my cable.
Okay.
And I pulled up my app and searched Dallas Mavericks, and the only channel the game is popping up on tonight is NBA TV.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That's too bad.
Yeah.
Thanks for running that down. Man, I hate that.
I know. The next one will be on ESPN, and then after that, it'll be on TNT.
Yeah.
Why do they do that?
Well, Jared Taylor says Google says NBA TV and Bally Sports. Now, Jared, that could be Bally Sports in Dallas because the programming into Dallas. And in the first round of the playoffs, I know Sean Elliott and Bill Land, when the Spurs are in the playoffs, typically that first round is on what used to be Fox Sports Southwest, now Bally Sports. So it's possible, Jared, that it's Bally Sports in Dallas and not in San Antonio or Austin, which sadly makes a little sense. I wish it weren't that way. Beth Settle, good morning, Beth. Welcome in. Louisa says Bally Sports shows the Rangers and the Angels. Okay, and that makes sense too if that's tonight. Okay. There you go, Alan Green. I watch on sportsurge.net for free. All right, Alan, I'm going to write that down. I mean, it's a little ridiculous that I've got to go search down an NBA playoff game on sportsurge.net because I don't have NBA TV. And I've otherwise got like 250 channels. Thank you, NBA TV. And for me, it would be ridiculous to have NBA TV because I do the Spurs radio games. So for on a regular season, 82 nights a year, I'm in the studio while Bill Schoning's doing the call of the Spurs game. For me to, there you go, Jared, just get some sleep instead. That's a good idea since tip-off's around 9:40. So anyway, for me to pay extra money and subscribe to NBA TV when most nights I'm in the OAI studio during an NBA game is a little ridiculous. First world problems, I know. I know. I just want, and you can see that I have it written here, beat the Clippers. I just want the Clippers to go down. I don't like them.
Chris, did you see the Brooks Koepka video?
I did not.
It's a good one. Not safe for radio play. But it is a TV interview, so it's kind of funny.
Okay.
I mean, they were pre-recording it, so it's not like he said it live, but they released it.
I'll have to check that out. See, I just saw the Brooks Koepka video. We should talk about it.
Well, you saw who walked behind him, right?
Yeah, that was Bryson DeChambeau, right?
Yeah.
See, and I think sports dislike among rivals or even hatred, I think it's good. It's too it's
Especially
too
the PGA
friendly.
needs it.
Yeah. I think you've said this before. Villains are great for sports,
right.
And yeah.
Well, and that becomes the story, right? Everyone's watching all week to see if they'll be in a final pairing together. Because how great would it be to have them on,
God.
the whole day on the court?
That would be beautiful. Jason says the NBA needs more rivalry. It will prevent these super teams. Yes. I mentioned this a few days ago, Jason, when I started hearing, Tony Parker, an NBA team would come into town and they'd be in a day early. And friends of Tony's would have dinner with him at his house the night before the game. It's just, I didn't like it. Do it after the season. Or do it after the game. Play the game. Have a, again, who am I to question the career choices of Tony Parker? Jason says Tony did that with Chris Paul. That could have been the guy. And I think you lose an edge. Granted, the Spurs tended to beat Chris Paul, but I remember and I brought up Staubach. I remember the Tom Landry Cowboys. The Cowboys and the Washington football team hated each other. Dyron Talbert, defensive lineman of the Washington team, said, I want to kill Staubach. I want to injure him. I want to hurt him. Roger threw it right back at them, called them losers, called them chokers. George Allen made fun of Landry. Landry didn't have nice things to say about George Allen, the Washington coach. It's the way it should be. Rivalries, angst, competitiveness, sports hatred. Here we go. And that's what I feel for Kawhi.
90 miles a day. Try to run, try to hide. To the other side.
Now, Chris Duel.
May tacos rain down upon you and your life and your world on this Taco Tuesday. May you ingest these tacos and appreciate the goodness that tacos bring into the world on a Taco Tuesday. It's the Chris Duel Show along with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Dave Ayler is your soundscape stylist. The final Taco Tuesday of the month of May 25th, as we head toward Memorial Day weekend. Just got to make it through this week, and a lot of people going to have a little extra time this weekend if you're lucky. 3 NBA games on tap tonight. We've been talking about that. Houston Astros open up a 2-game series against the whining Los Angeles Dodgers. Minute Maid Park. That is on Fox Sports 1 at 7:10 tonight. First pitch. Zach Greinke on the mound for the Astros. Clayton Kershaw pitching for the Dodgers. There's that. Dak is back. If you were joining us in the previous segment, we talked about his Instagram post, his performance yesterday during OTAs. Aaron Rodgers speaks out, although he doesn't give us a whole lot of information, with Kenny Mayne on SportsCenter last night. We will get into, and Shannon showed me during the break, and there's a little language that we can't necessarily use on radio, but Brooks Koepka doing an interview with what looked like the Golf Channel was kind of interrupted by Bryson DeChambeau and kind of expressed his disgust for Bryson DeChambeau. We'll get into that. But let's first dive back into, we talked about this in the 6 o'clock hour, and over the weekend, a photo surfaced. A guy at an airport saw Julio Jones at the airport and said, "Can I get a photo with you?" And Julio said, "Yeah, you can get a photo with me." And what was interesting, longtime Pro Bowl Atlanta Falcons wide receiver Julio Jones was wearing a Dallas Cowboys t-shirt. As he should. I wouldn't. First of all, before we listen to the audio, Shannon, between Julio Jones and Shannon Sharp, as a Cowboys fan, if the Cowboys could acquire him Would you want Julio Jones, or do the Cowboys just have too many riches at wide receiver as it is?
I think we do. And I don't think we could afford him with the riches we already have and the money we're already spending just throughout that team. And I'm happy with the players we have now. I don't feel like we need that addition. Julio Jones is pretty inconsistent as far as his health and availability. He seems to have a turf toe. I used to be a fan of drafting him for my fantasy team, and every other week it was like, is Julio going to play? Oh, his toe? Okay, never mind. So I just don't need that on our sidelines, and for just another guy who maybe thinks he should be thrown to a little bit more. Not to say we've got divas on our team, but you got to be wondering when you have those many superstars at that position, they're probably wanting the ball a little more than or what they're used to getting. But it does hurt me a little bit when he was when they were talking about, if you want to win, you can't go to Dallas. Like, oh, I know, man. That's rude.
That was very rude. Yes, totally agree. And we'll play the audio here in a moment. I just want to take a quick look at the Dallas Cowboys wide receiver depth chart. Amari Cooper, of course, big money for him. Mm-hmm. You essentially, in that deal with the Raiders, made him a first-round draft pick. That's what you gave up. Michael Gallup, still very, very good. And CD Lamb on the rookie contract. Yep, that's a pretty darn formidable wide receiver trio there. Then you got that guy, I can't even pronounce his name. You got him in the draft. Simi Fehoko is supposed to, a rookie, supposed to make some noise. You got Noah Brown, who could be interesting. So yeah, but your big three, your starters, when you run a 3 receiver set, Amari Cooper, CD Lamb, and Michael Gallup. That's they got nothing to worry about at wide receiver. I agree with you.
Yeah, I feel okay. And for Zeke, who has more and more been just like going out to the flat,
yeah,
we're good. Thank you.
All right. Well, let's
anyway.
Exactly. And you make the good point, and you've got firsthand knowledge because you paid close attention in fantasy football when he played for your team, the injury issues with Julio Jones. And I haven't Googled his age, but Julio's been around for a while. He's getting long in the tooth. And when a wide receiver's explosiveness diminishes, it's like gone overnight. I remember when Terrell Owens turned 35, it was like he's a different wide receiver. And all of a sudden, he caught on with the Buffalo Bills for a year and even the Bengals for a year, but he was not the same guy that he used to be. And you see that with so many wide receivers. When it goes, it goes. So, yeah, especially if you're injury prone and have the big contract. I don't know, man. All right, well, let's listen to the audio. This was on Undisputed. Thank you, Shannon, for reminding me of the name of the show. Shannon Sharp does this with Skip Bayless. And there's another little layer to this conversation, Shannon, that was a phone conversation involving FCC regulations on broadcasting a phone call without letting the guy or gal on the other end know that they're on the air. But all right, here we go. This is Shannon Sharp on a phone conversation with Atlanta wide receiver Julio Jones.
We call? Okay, we're calling. We're calling.
You watching, Julio?
I really hope he answers here.
Julio, have the guts to pick up the phone. Yeah.
All right.
Julio. Can you hear me? I got you. This is your favorite uncle. What's going on, bro? Man, nothing much. Trying to go meet up with my brother. What's happening with you? Man, look. You want to go to the Cowboys, Julio? Or you want to stay in Atlanta? Oh, man, I'm out of there, man. You out? He's out of there. Are you going to... Ideally, where would you like to go? Right now, I want to win. Okay. We don't go to Dallas. You ain't winning in Dallas, Julio. Man, listen, come on, man. You already know I know. Okay.
Can you remind us we're on television?
Ask me why we win in Dallas.
Listen. You know how people look, man, with all that around with the picture. Yeah. And all that stuff like that. Okay. Man, I ain't never been on that. You know what I'm saying? Okay. That's good enough. Yeah. Julio, I'll talk to you later. Thanks for calling me back. We on air, but I appreciate you calling me, dog. You know I know my nephew was gonna pick up. Oh yeah, nah. I ain't going to Dallas, man. I never thought about going to Dallas. Okay. I appreciate that, bro. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Now he might not have any choice.
Wow. And And Shannon, when he says, you already know I know, when he responding to Shannon Sharp, when he said, you're not going to win if you go to Dallas. I just hope wherever Julio goes, I hope that he plays the Cowboys this year, and I hope they punish him for that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him getting a little more aggressive
A little something,
takedown
something.
for where he might possibly land. And if we get to see him twice a year, that's even better.
And oh, by the way, defensive coordinator Dan Quinn knows a thing
Yeah.
or two about defending Julio
Yeah.
Jones back from Atlanta. So, well, first of all, is Shannon Sharp the uncle of Julio Jones, or was that just a
I don't
term of
believe
endearment?
so.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I think yeah.
So I'm your favorite uncle. Okay. So first of all, I wanted to make sure if you knew something I didn't know. But and Dave Ayler, you brought this up to me off the air earlier. FCC regulations state, if we're going to be technical, before you put anybody on the line, and we all go through this training every year here at iHeartRadio to make sure that we remember this. If you're going to put somebody on a phone call over the airwaves on television or radio, before you do it, you must let them know they are on the air. So did we see a little violation in action there?
Yeah, well, when someone calls us, it's implied that
they know because you called us.
Yeah, consent is implied. But if we call someone, we have to say, is it okay to go on for you to go on the air with us? And so, and towards the end there, it says, oh yeah, by the way, you're on the air
After the fact.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I don't know. I think that's a problem.
Is that show live?
I believe so, yeah. I think that was a live moment. And that's why a lot of people are bringing that up.
So I don't know if it was pre-recorded, and then after the fact, they really did confirm with him.
Yeah.
I also heard theories this morning that was the setup between the two of them to kind of see if they could get things moving on their own, since the Falcons had not traded him yet and apparently had tried to do so behind the scenes.
That's a good point, too.
Yeah. And Skip being a Cowboys fan, I mean, that was a direct shot, right?
Yeah, if you pull the curtain back a little bit and think about it, that's a good point, Shannon. For Shannon Sharp to make that call live on the air in the middle of a segment talking about Julio Jones, and if it would have just gone to voicemail, that would have been a little ridiculous. The more I think about it now that you just said that, I think it was set up. I think Julio knew the call was coming. Shannon knew we were going to make the call, and they all knew we were going to do this in the middle of the segment.
Exactly. It is a great everyone's playing the audio this morning. But it is, because it is interesting if that was not set up, and Julio probably didn't know that he was on air until after he said everything. Because did you notice too, after he was like, oh, by the way, you're on air, like he started mentioning Dallas again. Like, I don't know if he meant to do that or if he was just trying to change the discussion, because he was like, oh no, I didn't know. Because that's such a weird line that, Shannon, being a former player, probably feels like he needs to protect the players, but he's also in the media. So it's that line of, you have these conversations with these guys behind the scenes and in private, and what can you take away from that conversation and what can't you? I would think he would know at this point, especially playing both sides.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to believe that this wasn't planned to some extent, or that he didn't know that he was on air.
Very weird, but fun, and kind of fun to kind of listen in on that phone call with Julio Jones. But just my final thought, though, you wore the Cowboys t-shirt. If you're dogging on Dallas, it's like, you already know, I know you're not going to win in Dallas, and all the crap I got for work. But then why are you wearing the t-shirt? And if you're in an airport, if you're Julio Jones and you're in an airport, so he's getting on an airplane, and you're going to wear a Dallas Cowboys t-shirt, people are going to take photos of you. So you're asking for it.
I need pictures of him in other airports where they are home to NFL teams to see if maybe that's how he tries to be incognito. No, that couldn't be Julio Jones.
That's interesting.
He's wearing a Bucs shirt. They're in the same division. Why would he do that? Well, it's so no one goes and bothers him. He doesn't look suspicious.
Julio Jones is 32. Oh, by the way. So yeah.
Old.
I mean, 35 usually, unless you're Jerry Rice, who was able to go until he was like 40, for an NFL wide receiver. Right. You're 32. You're near the end.
I'm curious of how much he blames on his lowering stats with each year on Matty Ice and his productivity.
Yeah.
And that again, I love your idea of to save face, Green Bay should go and get Julio, and that way they can be paired up for at least a year or two.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers.
That would be cool. And that would be good.
Neither
I mean,
would have an excuse at that point.
true. And Julio wants to win. Aaron wants another tool, a weapon at wide receiver. So that could happen. All right. So there was that audio. Some audio that we probably can't play you because there's an expletive. And Shannon, you brought this to my attention. It's kind of beautiful. And it I guess I'm looking at the mic flag for the interviewer, and it says golf. So I guess it's the NBC golf channel. Brooks Koepka being interviewed, I'm guessing over the weekend during the PGA Championship. And describe, Shannon, how this played out.
Yeah, so they are taping a pre-recorded interview segment, which becomes very clear at the end. And he just asks him a question. Brooks starts answering. I think he's talking about, how hard it was to putt out there. He doesn't know what other players are saying. And as he's giving his answer, you can start to hear some chatter coming from behind him. We later see that it is Bryson DeChambeau, and I don't know if it was Caddy or somebody else, but they were chatting, and you can't really understand what they're saying. But Brooks Koepka pauses and releases a huge sigh and shakes his head, and you're just like, oh, they are not friends. Or at least Brooks is very annoyed just by his presence. And then he drops some not safe for work words in expression of, he didn't believe a word that was coming out of Bryson's mouth.
Yeah, just absolute. You look, we recommend you look at this video, and we'll tweet it out. If it's easy if you go to Twitter, just pop in Brooks Koepka video in the search engine. That's how I found it. But just absolute pain on his face when he hears the voice of Bryson DeChambeau off camera. Somebody says they were able to decipher what was being said. Brooks Koepka had said, just talking about how to line up a golf shot, Brooks said, quote, "I felt it difficult to read sometimes." And according to at least one person, DeChambeau says, "You just got to start it on the right line." So DeChambeau was kind of like interrupting, saying, "Well, you just do it the way I do it." And that's when deep sigh from Brooks, rolls the eyes, and says
what he's talking about because he's so disgusted by DeChambeau. And then he continues to say a few expletives, and he said, "Can we they redo it? They're gonna redo the shot." But then the reporter is like, "We're gonna have to share this."
Oh yeah,
and he's like, "Yeah, I don't even care at this point."
That's social media gold.
Which again, he's like, "I don't care if Bryson sees this," which he will.
Oh God, yes, especially now. Now we know he has. It's gone viral.
Bryson is the type of guy to make his feelings known.
Very cool. We'll talk more about sports hatred, sports rivalry, sports angst in a moment. And I'm a little late, but hey, story of my life. It is the contest we typically do at 7:20. We do it at 6:20 and 7:20. We do it 12 times throughout the day on both radio stations, AM 1300, The Zone, and Ticket 760. You're going to get a keyword. Go take it to either website, and you pop it in where it says grand in your hand, cash contest, and you're in the running for $1,000. Here's the keyword.
Win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Water. That's water. Enter it now.
Water. It's an interesting keyword. It's usually money related, like bank or cash. Water. All right. Cool. So now back into this for a moment, Shannon. And I brought this up during the break. When I was a kid, I'm a Cowboys fan. It was all Cowboys, and the biggest Cowboy rivalry was versus the Washington football team, and we called them something with an R back then. And I don't say it now because it offends some people, so we'll just call them what they're called now, the Washington football team. But the Cowboys and those Washington players and the coaches hated each other. There was a defensive lineman for Washington named Dyron Talbert who openly said, "I'm going to hit Roger Staubach. I'm going to hurt him. I'm going to try to injure him." And once he did, knocked him out of the game. Roger would at the line come up to the line of scrimmage and call them names and call them losers and chokers. It was ugly. There would be, going over the middle, there'd be fights in the secondary between wide receivers and defensive backs. Regularly, you would see George Allen, the head coach of the Washington football team, just mocking Tom Landry, going, "Oh, there he is, Mr. Perfect. Tom Landry with the fedora hat, Mr. America's team. Well, we're going to beat you today. It was beautiful. It was the way it was Brooks Koepka versus Bryson DeChambeau. And I brought this up.
Trenches.
Yes. Now, especially in the NBA, but also in football, you got players trading jerseys after games. It's like, oh, let me go trade my jersey with Zeke after the game because we're buddies. I just prefer, and I understand you can be buddies, but not in the stadium, and ideally not during the season. We've heard of NBA players. I know Tony Parker of the Spurs, sometimes the night before a game against an opponent, if the other team was in town a night early, if he had some buddies on the team, Tony would have them over for dinner at his house, which we've now seen on that documentary. And when I heard that, I'm like, no. And somebody said he did that with Chris Paul. When Chris Paul would come to town, he'd go have dinner with Tony the night before the Spurs played Chris Paul and his team. I prefer a simpler time when rivals hated each other.
Dinner with the opposing team should be ruled like tampering or something.
Yes.
The day before you play him. But to your point, the Brooks Koepka, I think golf needs it for sure, right? I mean, I think we're talking over the break, like if they were to be paired together on a Sunday,
oh man,
that would be the story entirely leading up to that weekend. But I agree, and I don't know if it's because in the society we're in, like you can't really say prior to a game, I feel like I'm going to hurt that person and then go out there and do it, because then I think people are going to start looking at it as a crime, even though it's on field plays, it's all like premeditated, whatever. I just don't think you could say that. I mean, Texas fans know when Texas was going to play Texas Tech, we had someone on our team say that he was going to take out Patrick Mahomes, and that was not viewed as very kind. But I would have loved to have been around back then, or even to have some just a little bit of that back now, to watch it in HD. Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, to be able to read their lips better than you already could. I love the Landry thing. Look at you, Mr. Perfect.
It was there's like NFL films footage of George Allen just
fantastic.
And Landry was kind of above it. Landry wouldn't verbal. Landry would just
perfect.
Yeah. Landry would just glare at him. Landry had that stone-faced, give you the death look with his eyes, and then typically go out and be. Oh, and then Roger, there's this great interview with Roger, like on a Football Life, where one in the NFC Championship game in '72, the Washington team at RFK Stadium beat the hell out of Dallas, beat them 26-3, and were just saying things. Rodgers on the ground, and they're saying, die, actual quotes, die, you dog, die, saying that to Roger. And Roger comes back, and this is like Roger modern day. And you can tell that, like, the anger in his voice. He goes, if you look back on it from that day, Washington never beat me or beat us in a meaningful football game ever again. I mean, Roger doubled down and dedicated himself the rest of his career to beating Washington, because they just disliked each other so vehemently. And there's something cool about that. And to this day, you hear it in Roger's voice. Roger doesn't like him.
I think the fans feel it more these days than the players actually do.
Yes. And one of the things back then, and we're up against the break, and we'll break now, but what you typically had teams for life. You didn't have free agent. So if you were a Cowboy, you were probably a Cowboy for life. Same with Washington. Or now you have player movement, and I don't think players are as identified with or as locked in or committed to a certain team and a fan base for life as they were maybe in the 60s and 70s back then. All right, coming up, Shannon's Salty Shakedown. This day in sports history. We've got some sports birthdays as well, and a whole lot going on. And I got to get into, there's a story in the WNBA. A head coach was suspended because he made fun of an opponent's weight. Now, obviously, not cool for a man to make fun of a woman's weight, but in professional sports,
kind of the thing that people talk about
in professional sports. I don't know. I love Shannon, and you played the game of basketball. I mean, it's kind of gender politics, and it's kind of gender double standards. And there's even a racist thing. There's a racist element to this in that the player then said, and it's almost a double standard. The player then says something along the lines of, I'm not going to let some skinny little dude, especially some white dude, say that to me. It's like, whoa, Had that been flipped, so anyway, we'll walk you through that story. It's a remarkable story. The coach is suspended for making fun of her weight. We'll tell you about what that, and it's an opponent. So it's sports hatred again. It's an opponent. Quick break. Lots more coming up. We are with you till 9. Tanner Carlson going to join us and talk all things sports, PGA, NFL, and more. He'll join us just after 8. We are with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Yeah, Shannon, you probably saw that story. It's on TMZ Sports. The Connecticut Sun head coach Kurt Miller and Liz Cambridge of the Las Vegas Aces.
Yes.
But I mean, it's interesting on two levels in what he says to the ref. Hey, she's 300 pounds out there, angry about a call. And then she says, I'm not going to let some skinny white dude talk to me about my weight. So it's like you've got kind of a gender double standard, and you've got kind of a racial double standard going on.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of sport, like weight and size matter. I mean, that's how you do matchups. That's how you scout people. I mean, it's part of your information that everyone gets to see, even fans, right? It's on your stat sheet. And in basketball, when you have that small point guard going up to lay it up against a post person, it's easier to foul. I don't know.
Jason, was she 300 or no? She's something like 245. I think I got the numbers here.
Obviously, I can't find the quote that he said to her. So if he worded it some sort of way, but if he was saying like she's 240 pounds, how is that not a foul? She's coming down on this, small play or whatever. I can, I don't think that's suspense worthy.
No, but and almost it's like if you want to be a professional athlete, let me see.
Yeah,
I may have the quote.
Unfortunately, heckling or whatever is part of it.
Yeah, he complained to the ref that she weighs 300 pounds. She weighs 235. She was the number 2 overall pick in the 2011 draft. She claims that he crossed the line when complaining to the ref Sunday night. Yeah, she says she overheard him saying, come on, she's 300 pounds. And then she apparently posted, I'm very proud of being a big bitch, and I will never let a man disrespect me ever, 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 especially a little white one. That's just wow. Imagine if racial roles were flipped there, and a white person said, especially a little black one. I mean, I just think there's a lot going on there, a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, especially at that point, he was already suspended. Why make a comment? Why do to him what he did to you that upset you so much?
True. Yeah, you could have been above it. And say, I agree with the suspension, period. Sam Tobias says, anytime you say TMZ, you should call it what Mike Taylor does, the most trusted news source, TMZ. I will, the day Michael Jackson died, TMZ had it 2 hours before anybody else could confirm it. They've done that a few times. They've got a salacious, sensational reputation, but they sometimes get things before other people get them. John Williams, 2 wrongs don't make a right. I would agree. Sam Tobias, the Washington racial slurs. Yeah, I first heard that from Rod Babers, which I think was appropriate. Yeah, Jason, you bring up a great point. Yeah, if If Becky Hammon was an NBA coach and she complained about the weight of a male player, would she get suspended? Obviously not. And if that male player said, I'm not going to be disrespected by a woman, he would catch all kinds of hell. So, yeah. Yeah, I missed in the comments that Shannon sent it to you. So I missed that exchange. I would have waited before we talked about it for the audio. So I didn't realize it was coming. Yeah, and we're okay. You know, we covered it pretty extensively, so we're good. There you go, Roger. Yeah, I didn't know that, but that would make sense. Roger Salazar says Brooks Koepka called out Bryson DeChambeau for slow play last year and said if amateurs can be penalized, so should the pros. Yep. So apparently they've got a history of not getting along. Let's see. One other thing I need to check here. Let's do this. Now we're talking. Little Jimi Hendrix in the morning. Let me stand next to your fire. Dave Ayler, your soundscape stylist. Jimi Hendrix on the spectacular music. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. We got a lot to cover all morning long. We were talking about it during the break. We're going to get into this story out of the WNBA where a head coach has been suspended for making a crack to an official in the middle of a game against an opposing player's weight. And then that player kind of shot back on social media and referenced ethnicity. We'll get into that. Dak is back. Haven't gotten into, and we'll get into LeBron James in an interview, evasive about whether or not he's been vaccinated. This in the aftermath. We talked about it yesterday about his tequila event where nobody was wearing a mask, and the NBA just kind of let that go. Lots to cover in a moment. Shannon's Salty Shakedown. Don't forget, Tanner Carlson going to join us just after 8 o'clock. We often go NFL football. He's a Mavericks fan. We'll see if he's as pessimistic as Shannon is about the Mavericks tonight taking on the LA Clippers. Mavericks trying to take a 2-0 lead on the road in that series, which would be earth-shaking for the Clippers if they fell into an 0-2 hole and had to go on the road. And throughout the morning, we're with you till 9 o'clock this morning. You're always welcome on the phone lines, 800-707-9760 if you want to talk to us the old-fashioned way, or like a lot of people, you can join us on Facebook. We stream live video on AM 1300 The Zone and Ticket 760's Facebook pages with avenues into that video via YouTube, Twitch, and all over the internet. Before Shannon's Salty Shakedown of the morning, some sports birthdays and this day in sports history. May 25th, 1922, Babe Ruth is suspended for 1 day and fined $200 for throwing dirt on an umpire. Not enough of that going on anymore. Billy Martin, the manager of the Yankees in the 70s, used to always kick dirt on the umpire. I miss that. Throw the dirt. Speaking of Babe Ruth, on this day in 1935, Babe Ruth hit his 714th and final home run in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That was 1935. It would take until 1974, April 8th, to be accurate, when Hammer and Hank Aaron would break that 714 record and hit number 715. Craig Sager, one of the first people to greet Hank Aaron at home plate. That's a whole nother story, but there's video of that. This day in 1965, it was a big one. Muhammad Ali knocks out heavyweight champion Sonny Liston in 2 minutes and 12 seconds of round number 1 at the Central Maine Civic Center. Huge knockout for Muhammad Ali. Actually, he was Cassius Clay at the time, but later known as Muhammad Ali. And finally, on this day in 1981, the Boston Red Sox, Carl Yastrzemski, at the age of 41, is the 4th Major League Baseball player to play in 3,000 games. Before him, Ty Cobb, Stan Musial, and the guy I mentioned, Hank Aaron. The 4th player to play in 3,000 games was Carl Yastrzemski on this day in 1981. That's this day in sports history. How about some sports birthdays? Born on this day in 1919, you got to be old like me to remember him. Lindsey Nelson was a television sportscaster, CBS Sports. He did Yankees games. Lindsey Nelson was born in Pulaski, Tennessee on May 25th, 1919. He died in 1995. Born on this day in 1926, American Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame basketball player with the Boston Celtics. Later a coached the Lakers later, Bill Sharman. And I never knew this. Bill Sharman was born in Abilene, Texas. He was a Texan. I always thought of him as a Boston Celtic and a Laker coach. Bill Sharman died in 2013. Speaking of coaches and players, born on this day in 1932, K.C. Jones, Hall of Famer, point guard, got Olympic gold in 1956, won a bunch of championships with the Celtics, because that's all they did in the 60s, from 1959 through 66. He coached the Celtics to the NBA championship in 1984 and 1986. Another Texan, K.C. Jones, was born in Taylor, Texas. He died just last year in 2020. And finally, born on May 25th, 1978, maybe the second best linebacker in Chicago Bears history, because Dick Butkus has to be the best linebacker in Bears history. Brian Urlacher, born on this day in 1978 in Pasco, Washington. Happy birthday to those dudes. Happy birthday to you if it's your birthday. That's sports birthdays and this day in sports history. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, countrymen, and farm animals, you know you love it. You can't get enough of it. Here it is, your Salty Shakedown.
Well, you teased it perfectly, sir. We've got LeBron news as the NBA officially released a statement saying that they would not suspend LeBron following that tequila event with some unmasked friends. They noted that he had in order to go or attend something like this, you need a negative test or you need to be vaccinated. They found that the party included everyone who either brought a negative test or had been vaccinated. And they said with their new rules, players are allowed to go to events like this as long as, again, they are proving negative test or vaccinated. And you alluded to it earlier, LeBron's still kind of being evasive on whether or not he is vaccinated. However, when the NBA releases this statement that says, vaccinated players can go to these events, it would kind of make you assume that LeBron is vaccinated. I don't know why you would hide you are or you aren't. Feels to me like he'd be a guy that would want to get the vaccine anyway, right?
Well, what drives me a little crazy about that, and there was this interview with LeBron, and the guy goes, "You are vaccinated, right?" And LeBron just kind of laughs. He goes, "Well, and he just tried to move on. He and like twice with follow-ups, he would not answer if he's vaccinated. And I think one of the big issues, LeBron is viewed as a leader, not only in the African American community, but among the country and the world. And there has been resistance to the vaccine in higher numbers, some suspicions of it in the African American community. So I even saw Stephen A. Smith go on Don Lemon last night on CNN going, LeBron needs to, he's a leader here. He needs to speak out. And Stephen A. said, I educated myself. I got the vaccine because I know it's going to help people. And Stephen A. is having problems with LeBron being evasive about whether or not he got it.
Mm-hmm. It's, from one side, vaccination or not, it's interesting that the NBA decided to announce it the way that they did and throw out this new line that has been added pretty recently, saying they've done it with other teams before. But it's interesting now that it almost makes it official that, yes, if LeBron can do it, now you can do it. And now the precedent has been set with a guy like LeBron. You cannot go back to what you were doing. It seems like even weeks before when those Houston players were in Miami. And obviously they got into some trouble as well. But super, super interesting. And you're totally right. LeBron hasn't been part of any of the kind of TV specials we've had about getting vaccinated with a lot of celebrities. One of those celebrities we're going to move into right now, also an NFL star, Russell Wilson, who hosted one of those specials with his wife. As we all know, the Oakland A's are heavily considering moving elsewhere. We've talked about, what's the possibility of them maybe coming to ASA, Austin, San Antonio area, or even Portland, a place that feels, and maybe we're mocking them, they're mocking us, I don't know. But Russell Wilson has joined the clan in saying on Twitter that he can't wait for them. Apparently the Oakland A's are coming to visit. They're going to check out the city. A little background on Russell Wilson. He's an investor. He's the business guy, right? He's looking past his NFL and into his future. And he has joined with his wife in 2018, actually, similar to what Justin Timberlake did in Memphis that we talked about, Nashville. This kind of coalition of people who are pushing for an MLB team to come and play in their city. And so they've kind of already got the ground running on this because that, again, was just going to be an expansion team. And now there's an opportunity to bring in a team, probably a lot less expensive to bring in a team that's already a thing than start an expansion team from the ground up. But interesting that he is tweeting about it now. Of course, I don't know of any major celebrity who tweeted for our area here, Chris.
We need it. Come on, Austin, San Antonio.
Yeah, I think
McConaughey, where are you?
He's worn out, man. He's got that Moody Center for Texas, and he's got Q2 Stadium. We've got it. There's somebody else.
We're going to build it right where the Buc-ee's is, right where the Buc-ee's, where you got Buc-ee's on one side of 35, you got In-N-Out. It'll be Buc-ee's Stadium. We'll put the beaver on it. Buc-ee's Stadium.
Why not get some Spurs players to do it, right? Because that sems to be the way things work. I mean,
come on, Tim Duncan.
Like, look, I play just up the road, right? Yeah. I mean, look how great it is. I'm also he's part of another investing group that is working to build an arena in the Portland area to try and get NHL teams and basketball teams to come there. So he's basically saying, look, as an athlete, I'd love to play here. So that's why we're trying to bring all these teams here, and why not you? He seems like a pretty big endorsement to have in the case of moving that team to that region, especially, they're pretty dry sports wise. I mean, they could probably be the team of that town.
You would think, yeah.
Trailblazers, like, whatever. James Ellis, I don't think he lasts long, and Carmelo's a day-to-day kind of thing. And they lost to the Nuggets last night.
Yeah, they lost big, 128-109.
When your bench doesn't produce, I don't know what's going on.
Double-double for Dame Lillard, 42 and 10 assists, but not enough.
Sorry, sidetracked there.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson endorsing the A's to come to Seattle. And finally, just a little local news here. Andy Roddick, of course, of the Austin area and Texan, that seems to be a theme of today, has a new bourbon out.
Woo!
It's called Sweeten's Cave, and it's got a kind of cool backstory where he was in Tennessee with a friend, and it was a pretty old and beat up course. So they ended up buying it and restoring it. And he said during this time when they were playing it, they would always start the round with a shot of bourbon, which, okay, get loose. I know people, that's the way they like to golf. But they said, that they ended up loving doing that tradition and really wanted to kind of bring that to life. However, he knew nothing about the world of bourbon. And so he got some original investors, including Jim Nance and a guy named Peyton Manning. Pretty interesting that they jumped on Roddick's early adventures into the bourbon world, but it has now been released and it's got this great golf backstory. A little weird that it's considered a Tennessee bourbon. I know the golf course was in Tennessee, but where's the Austin? Where's the Texas? Let's get that going, sir.
Yes.
Are you a bourbon guy?
Not real. I mean, I don't dislike it. I just don't seek it out. I mean, I've had it and it's all right, but I'm mainly a beer guy. I'm a pretty boring beer guy. Although I do like, I like your tequila. I like your margaritas with tequila in them.
That's where I typically go. I don't really go the dark route, but I'd be willing to try it, Andy, if you wanted to send some to iHeart. We'd totally do that.
We'll taste it on the air, Andy, and we'll get you on the show. We'll pimp it for you.
Absolutely. So for those that do want to check it out, Sweeten's Cave Bourbon by Andy Roddick.
Sweet.
And that's today's Salty Shakedown. Now, I want to get a little bit back into the NBA since we did bring it up with that Portland Trail Blazers Nuggets game, that Heat game. That series is over, right? Bucks Heat.
Oh my God!
Can't shoot no threes.
No,
make no playoff run.
Yeah, 2-0 Bucks. Bucks annihilate the Heat 132-98 last night.
I mean, that's not playoff basketball.
No.
8 for 22 from 3-point land.
Yeah.
And you let them make over half of theirs.
The high scorer for the Heat was NBA journeyman and one-time Spur Dwayne Dedman.
Yeah.
With 19 led the Heat in scoring.
Where was Jimmy Butler?
Good question.
Was it pregame 1 or pregame 2 where that picture of him, black and white, he's working out, he is super sweaty, there's got to be oil on him, and people are like, oh, he didn't come to play, like he's here to win. And where was he?
And this is, we talk about the Milwaukee Bucks, and I think maybe they're my favorite team in the East, just given the Spurs connections. Mike Budenholzer, longest tenured Spur assistant to Greg Popovich, 17 years. Bryn Forbes, former Spur. Chad Forcier, assistant coach, former Spur assistant. If they could sweep the Heat or win it in 5, their next opponent's going to be the Brooklyn Nets. So if they could, and Brooklyn may sweep Boston. So maybe Milwaukee has to sweep Miami just not to have to play extra games, because it looks like Brooklyn may have its way with Boston.
Yeah, the rest would definitely be needed. That'd be interesting. I don't know who I'd go for in that matchup. Nets Bucks. I think the Bucks are more likable.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people are against seeing the Nets do what everyone kind of expected them to do.
Yeah.
Because then it's just annoying.
Well, and it's interesting, the Bucks too, each of the last 2 years, they win about 60 games, and then they folded in the playoffs. This year, especially with the Brooklyn Nets having built a super team, nobody's believing in the Bucks at all. So this might be the year, and it's the same Bucks team led by Giannis and Chris Middleton that has a whole lot of talent. You know, this Bucks team might just shock some people when it comes time to their series against Brooklyn.
Which then again brings up the conversation of market size and the
Yep.
things we've all heard before, right? Well, we can't, we signed or Giannis for a really long time, but we can't get anybody else over here because we're in Milwaukee and this, that, and the other. So I like that matchup.
Yeah,
And I believe it's coming.
it is coming. It's going to be fun, and hopefully, if nothing else, we'll have a good series there. So once again, tonight you've got 3 NBA games. The early game, 6:40 on TNT. The Brooklyn Nets host the Boston Celtics. Brooklyn up 1-0. Your second game on TNT at 9:10. The Phoenix Suns host the LA Lakers. Phoenix up 1-0. And then another later game at 9:40, and it ticks me off because it's on NBA TV, and I don't have NBA TV. The Clippers host the Dallas Mavericks. Dallas leads 1-0. Shannon has no confidence in her beloved Mavericks to go up 2-0 against the Clippers tonight.
I wish I did. I'm just trying to keep it real. And most people right now believing on our poll question day that the Clippers will win and the Lakers will end up losing.
Man, if the Lakers fall into an 0-2 hole tonight, that won't be pretty.
Don't forget, LeBron came back from 3 behind.
Yes.
NBA Finals.
LeBron is the king. Doesn't want to get vaccinated, but he's still the king. All right, coming up, let's talk about the rivalry between Brooks Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau with Tanner Carlson. We'll also talk some Dallas Cowboys with Tanner Carlson. Did Julio Jones diss the Dallas Cowboys? Must he be punished? And Dak is back, baby. Dak looking great in OTAs yesterday. We'll get into all of it with Tanner. We're with you till 9. Thanks for hanging out on the Chris Duel Show. Yeah, Kyle Anderson, Mike Garcia, you are correct. And, Fonzie J. Rodriguez, I hate Joe Kelly, by the way. Love you, but I hate Dodger pitcher Joe Kelly. Kevin Monk, you got me on Urlacher and me totally missing on Mike Singletary. So, yeah, I would say Bears linebackers, Dick Butkus 1. Agree with you, Mike Singletary at 2. Urlacher at 3. Totally forgot about Singletary. My bad. I got to go get the tripod for Tanner. Because he needs a tripod. Let's see. Mask. Luisa rooting for the Bucks. So am I. I think I want the Bucks more than any other team. There's nobody in the West. Although I am a Mavericks fan in this series against the Clippers, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Yep. John Williams, Michael Singletary was a Baylor Bear. You are correct. Sam Tobias says, I'm sorry, but the Spurs fan and the silver and black that runs through me can't root honestly for the Dallas Mavericks, but can't never, ever, ever root for number 2 in more ways than one. Well, and see, that's the thing for me, Sam. I can't stand Kawhi. I don't want him advancing yet. And I know there's that rivalry with the Mavericks and probably the Rockets, but I like Luka. I like Bob. I love Boban. Mark Cuban has grown on me over the years. I mean, obviously, I'm not a Mavericks fan. I'm a Spurs fan, but in this case and in this series, I want the Mavericks to win. Porzingis is kind of cool. Jason says they are both enemies. Well, see, the worst enemy is the Clippers and Kawhi. Kawhi personally, if Kawhi didn't go off the deep end and become a traitor to the Spurs, how would the Spurs have played each of the last 2 seasons with Kawhi the way it was supposed to be? If he wasn't a dirtbag turncoat scum of the earth. Kawhi Leonard. No, I'm not talking about Tanner.
Why are you talking about me like that? Say it to my face, buddy. Kawhi, what you mad about?
He just destroyed my basketball team. Turned his back on his team and a fan base and a city.
That embraced him and loved him.
And the Spurs built him.
They did trade for him.
Yeah, they traded for him, and the player development coaches really helped.
He wasn't an offensive guy.
No, they helped his 3-point stroke. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, obviously he had to buy in, and he's very talented and worked to improve himself. But Spurs had the right plan. It was like post Duncan. This is going to be our guy, and if it would have worked out, they'd be playing in the playoffs tonight. So anywhere specifically you want to go? Dak is back as of yesterday. We can go there.
We can definitely go OTAs.
Okay. PGA Championship. Brooks.
We can touch on that.
Okay.
I know it's a little old. But
yeah, it's a day old. So
we can touch on it. But
Okay.
yeah, Dak and OTAs.
Okay.
Tyron and Lael were active playing. So
Cool.
Definitely
Okay.
some good news
Yeah.
for the Cowboys for sure. And then we can always touch on Watson. He's not going to OTAs
Yes.
and says he still wants out. So I think there's plenty to talk about.
Beautiful.
We can touch on a little bit of playoffs as well.
Did you see the video with Brooks Koepka reacting to Bryson DeChambeau?
Hilarious. Absolutely fantastic stuff. There's more disdain and rivalries in PGA than there is in the NBA right now.
Yeah, in the NBA, they're all buddies.
They're all buddy, going
Yeah.
to barbecues together, riding on bananas together, and
right.
But
No.
what's up?
We're no gentlemen.
Yeah.
Question, since you're wearing one of those lousy trash can
Yes.
t-shirts. Give me the names of the Colt 45's Astros broadcasters from back in the 60s.
Oh my God. Oh God.
Well, you weren't even around.
No, but you I've heard you say their names before. I can tell you that Joe Morgan played for the Colt 45s, but I can't tell
And he
you.
also played here in San Antonio, too.
Yeah, that's right. So all right, who were they?
Gene Nelson and Lowell Pass.
Gene Elston and Lowell
Yes,
Pass.
sir.
I can name the Cowboys broadcasters when
Frank Lieber.
Frank Lieber, Vern Lundquist very early on was in the booth with Frank Lieber. Yeah,
Oh, wow. That's cool.
yeah. And at one time, like in 64, Gary DeLon did like a year of Dallas Cowboys radio. Gary DeLon, like in 1960. And you know this about Gary DeLon. When Kennedy was shot, he was like he was the first reporter to go national from Dealey Plaza. And the morning he is in the basement when Oswald is shot. He's in that photo where you see Oswald getting shot on a wider angle. Gary DeLon is a reporter there with a tape recorder for WFAA or something. So
Have you been up there to Dealey
I have been.
Very eerie.
It is very eerie. Yeah, it's
They
just
showed you that camera view that they have.
Oh, I've probably seen it.
They have a camera angle from where Oswald was supposedly at. It's pretty crazy to see.
It is
his point of view
crazy.
on it.
Two of the best country western song titles. I'm gonna keep you if you won't go away. And a hater going in your body except for mine.
very nice. Here we go.
Now, Chris Duel.
It is a Taco Tuesday, but it is a beautiful, well, every Taco Tuesday's a beautiful Taco Tuesday, but this is an even more beautiful Taco Tuesday because yesterday, OTAs, Dallas Cowboys won number 4 wearing a red jersey, which means don't touch me, I'm the quarterback. Dak Prescott looking outstanding, but there was other great news from OTAs. We love talking Dallas Cowboys and all things sports with Tanner Carlson. There he is. He comes with his own sound effect. Thank you, Dave Ayler. It is the Chris Duel Show along with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Tanner, big. It was great to see Dak, and Shannon and I talked about it as well. Dak's Instagram post saying, "Thank you, adversity, for the opportunity." Just a great day yesterday for Dallas Cowboys fans.
Yeah, and it was really good to see number 4 back out there, but it was just as good to see number 77 and number 71 protecting him on the offensive line out there at practice as well. We didn't even see La'el Collins at all at any point in the offseason last year, so it's nice to have that right tackle, left tackle, those bookends, hopefully protecting that red jersey you were talking about back there as well. So a very good start so far, an optimistic start and outlook for the Cowboys offseason in the first day of OTAs.
And you mentioned Tyron Smith and La'el Collins, offensive linemen who have been injured. That is kind of one of the gambles the Cowboys seem to have made in the draft. They went so defense. I think their first 6 picks on the defensive side of the ball. And it kind of felt like, all right, the defense is atrocious. We really need to address the defense in this offseason and in this draft and hope that guys like Collins and Tyron Smith can stay healthy. And I mean, it's day one, got a long way to go,
right?
But we'll take it. It's good to see him out there.
It is very good to see him out there. And I think the training staff talks to Jerry and they talk to the scouts and they talk to Will McClay, they talk to Stephen Jones, they talk to McCarthy, and they know where these guys are health-wise. If they think that they had a problem in the future regarding Collins or Smith's long-term future with the team, I think they would have addressed that position in the draft or in the offseason at some point in free agency. It would just make sense at some point. You would think that they would have done that. So I think that the medical staff and those players' medicals have come back and an optimistic view. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't get re-injured or they can't get hurt again or whatever. It just means that they're healthy going into the year and they're about as good as they're going to get for the offseason programs that are underway. So good news. And like you said, I mean, us fans, we've been talking about, and the media have been talking about, oh, how bad of a defense. They have to address defense. Well, they address defense. So that's really all we can ask for at this point. We just now hope that those players can develop and become contributors and big-time playmakers for the Dallas Cowboys, whether offense, defense, or whatever. We're just kind of, at this point, I think every team is optimistic, going into it. But Cowboy fans, seeing a healthy offensive line, seeing a Dak Prescott, maybe a little bit more optimistic than most teams in the NFL.
I'm with you. Everything we've seen so far after that one whole day is going in the right direction.
Right.
You mentioned areas that the Cowboys need to address. We still don't really have a backup quarterback. And I know we don't want to be thinking like that after we see this positivity that Dak is pushing out there, but it is business. And, who's to say he doesn't get knocked out for a play or two during the season? His helmet pops off. Maybe he gets a little dizzy. They need to check for a concussion. We need a guy who can step in and not, drastically change the game for the worse. Should Dak go out even for a snap or two?
I think you're stuck with the guys you have because you have a whole $10 to work with in salary cap. I think, I think you've got a crisp $1 bill in your salary cap to work with anybody coming in. And regardless of backup position or not, most quarterbacks are going to be fairly pricey against the cap, regardless if you get a RG3 or if you're going to get somebody, as a backup, a notable name as a backup. Yeah. They're going to be somewhat pricier than you're going to have in Garrett Gilbert or Ben DiNucci.
Cooper Rush still, as we speak, on the depth chart at number 4.
Right. And Cooper Rush is also who is familiar with the offense, or he's at least familiar with working with Kellen Moore. So it will be interesting. And I think they're going to go into the preseason with those 3 guys. And I don't know if you see a whole lot of Dak Prescott in the preseason. I don't want to. I would rather just see him on the bench and wait till Thursday Night Football to see him take the field for the very first time. That's me personally. Let those 3 guys battle it out for the backup position. And hopefully we get to see a Garrett Gilbert who was somewhat reminiscent of what we saw against Pittsburgh. I would be okay if that's your backup and that's who you're going to have. I would feel slightly more comfortable than the other options that you have.
See, I always go back to, because it was so significant, 2 years ago when Teddy Bridgewater was the backup quarterback for the Saints and Drew Brees went down for either 4 or 6 games. But I know Teddy Bridgewater came right in and won those games. You mentioned RG3 and he's available, or at least he's out there. And I have heard some people mention RG3. Right. I would rather have somebody like an RG3. I'd love to have Colt McCoy. I'd rather have a guy who has taken significant snaps as a starter in the NFL, as opposed to Garrett Gilbert, Ben DiNucci, Cooper Rush do not inspire any confidence in me if you needed them for multiple games.
Yeah. After having Andy Dalton last year, who is that starter with under his belt you talk about, you'd take him back?
That's a great question.
Money. He's on that list.
First of all, he had COVID at one point, and then was it an ankle injury? He didn't have
a concussion.
A concussion. Okay,
he got cheap shotted, and the offensive line did nothing to retaliate.
That was awful.
That's what the whole situation
was. Awful.
Yeah.
Oh, but no, Shannon, you make a great point. It's like we went down that path with Andy Dalton, and he did not dazzle anybody. So
I think the Cowboys did miss an opportunity, however, with Mitch Trubisky. Trubisky was out there. He's a young guy. He's coming off recent starts, off of last year's starts. And I think the Bills signed him for a very, very team-friendly 1 or 2 year deal that was only just a slight notch above, an average backup quarterback salary. But I mean, it was a fairly cheap deal comparatively when you're looking around the league at backup quarterbacks and good viable options at backup quarterback. I think the Cowboys maybe have missed an opportunity there. I would have liked to seen them bring him in, but they've tried out guys like Brett Hundley, and they've tried out all these other guys you see kind of rotating through tryouts and at least through rookie mini camp with an RJ Barrett. Is that? Yeah, I think that's what his name is. But they would have been signed already. If they had shown anything in any practices or any drills, they would have been signed already. But apparently those guys are not better options than who we already have.
And, you had Tyrod Taylor, now a Houston Texan. That was a good move. That's a guy I think the Cowboys could have pursued. And I look at a guy like a Josh Rosen, who was so acclaimed coming out of UCLA, and it never worked out. To me, though, I'd rather have a shot at a Josh Rosen who was believed to have had such a big upside as opposed to a Garrett Gilbert or a Ben DiNucci.
Who has never had that upside. Yeah. You were right. I can see your argument, but when you've been bounced around, you've been in the league for now going on 3 seasons, and you've been on 5 teams and was on a practice squad for one of those teams, I don't have a whole lot of faith in you. And I think at some point that it's going to be like the Tim Tebow effect with Josh Rosen. How many opportunities can you get? I don't mean to bring him up again, but it's just as a hot topic right now. So, but yeah, how many opportunities can you give a guy like Josh Rosen whenever he's been a first round pick and he's been on team after team after team? How many coaches and scouts have to look at this guy and say, no, you're not cut out for our roster, for him to just finally be out of the NFL completely. So, this is a great topic, though. I would much rather talk about backup quarterback disasters and issues with your roster than any other starting position on your team. If your biggest issue is backup quarterback, you've got a good roster set in place.
And clearly it's not. Clearly the defense.
There's still defensive questions.
The defense was historically atrocious. So I've asked you this before, but you have a keen eye. You pay close attention to this Cowboy roster. Dan Quinn, the new defensive coordinator, formerly head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Is he on a path to turn this team around? I know he's brought a couple of Falcons over. I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't think they were known for their defense a year ago when things were collapsing. But how are you feeling about this Cowboys defense moving forward?
One of those guys is coming off an Achilles injury, so he was out after week 4, and he's one of their better secondary guys in DeMonte Casey. He's coming back. He's going to hopefully help this secondary and a safety position in which Cowboy fans have been clamoring to get a hold of and improve that part of the roster. So hopefully he can kind of return to where he was. He led the league in interceptions at one point in his career. That was pre-Achilles injury. So we'll see how he kind of comes back. But Keanu Neal is an interesting prospect because he's coming in from a safety position, and Quinn has aspirations for him to be a linebacker. And so we go back to Jalen Smith all the time and Leighton Vander Esch. Jalen Smith was famously known and quoted as go watch the tape on his performance last season. Well, apparently the coaches did watch the tape because they've drafted 2 linebackers and they've signed another one, and they're hoping that they can move him out as many times as they possibly can in different rotations, different lineups. But they brought in Keanu Neal to play linebacker. They drafted Micah Parsons. They drafted Jabril Cox. I will be very interested to see how this linebacking crew ends up in the rotation, whether it's a nickel package or a base defense, whatever they decide to do. I've read different things with Dan Quinn about running a 3-4 defense, 3 down linemen and 2 rushers. And maybe that would be a spot better suited for a Jalen Smith to come off the edge and not be so much a part of pass protection and run. Just go on the edge and rush the quarterback. You have one job and get to the quarterback. That might be a better task for him to do. I'll be interested and hopeful to see that Dan Quinn can find a spot for all these different linebackers and for them to contribute the best way they can.
And go ahead, Shannon.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
Well, no, here's what I was going to ask you, Shannon. I'm wondering, Dan Quinn, who was up 28-3 in the Super Bowl against the Patriots just a few years ago. I mean, if they hold on and win that Super Bowl, Dan Quinn doesn't get blown out last year, even though they had a down year. Dan Quinn would be considered in the pantheon of coaches who've won a recent Super Bowl, of which Mike McCarthy is one of them, although it's been a number of years now since the Packers won it under Mike McCarthy. I wonder if Dan Quinn can build this defense, and we've talked about just get them to be adequate. Mike McCarthy still inspires no optimism in me. I thought it was just such a lackluster season. And I remember back when Wade Phillips was the head coach of the Cowboys and your hot offensive coordinator was Jason Garrett before we found out that Jason was a robot and an automaton and a puppet and kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
But so I'm just getting the vibe that if things don't go well for Mike McCarthy, especially maybe as early as this year, I'm wondering if I could name the head coach and I had a choice between Dan Quinn and Mike McCarthy, unless I see something out of Mike McCarthy, I kind of like Dan Quinn. I mean, we'll see what he does with this defense, but if things go south with Mike McCarthy in the next year or two, I think you may have a coach in waiting there with Dan Quinn.
That's an interesting point, but I think actually I don't know how many Cowboy fans are going to like to hear this from me, but I think it's a more realistic approch would go Kellen Moore.
Oh!
I'm just saying. I think
Dinty Moore.
Dinty
Moore.
They groomed him to be Garrett 2.0. He's got the same haircut. He's now wearing the bat belt.
16 years old, isn't he?
He's wearing the Batman gadget belt, and he's got the whole head. He's got the whole Garrett look down.
Oh my God!
I think it would be more realistic to see Kellen Moore take over as a head coach more so than a Dan Quinn.
Garrett, no, No.
Thank you.
The quarterback discussion we just had, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to go a different route, or do you want to get a different version of what you just had?
Yeah.
And that is Kellen Moore.
I think Kellen Moore is way more versatile in his play calling and play design than Jason Garrett. Now, people might be like, oh, blah, blah, but the amount of motion that we see in the offense and what the numbers we were putting up as an offense despite turnovers, and that's not something really a coach can control in terms of Zeke putting the ball on the ground or Dak putting the ball on the ground or whoever is turning the ball over, and then penalties also. But there needs to be that discipline in place. Obviously, that falls on coaching as well. But when it happens 4 times in one half, like we saw against Atlanta with Zeke, coaching can't really do anything about that. But I think you see more things out of this offense than you did with a Jason Garrett ran offense where it was run, pass, run, pass, run, pass. Oh, play action. Wait a second. We're changing things up a little bit. I think you see a little bit more variety out of Kellen Moore. He's definitely inexperienced. He definitely has work to do, but I would see him more of a head coach as a replacement for McCarthy if things don't go right. But just real quickly on McCarthy, we went 6-10 last year. If my memory serves me correctly. If Jason Garrett's the head coach last year with everything that goes on, injuries, everything goes exactly as the way it did last year on the field, and then COVID, all that stuff, and Jason Garrett's your head coach, what do you think your record is? Do you think McCarthy got more wins than what Jason Garrett would have got you?
I don't.
Really?
I think with the COVID, with Dak going down,
I think McCarthy was the reason Dallas got 6 wins. As many as 6 wins.
So what, you think they would have been 3-13 without him?
Maybe 2 wins, 3 wins tops.
I hope you're right. I just
he was put in a position last year. Also, I don't condone going on a fake punt on 4th and 15 on your own 20-yard line. I don't condone any of those decisions that he made that were just absurdly idiotic. But he was also put in a position where I think he got to the point where I'm done with this defense. I'm done with Mike Nolan. There's nothing I can do about it right now at this point in time. So I'm going to go for it. Now, put your offense out there. Don't do a fake punt, but put your offense out there and go for it. And I think those decisions that he made were definitely based on how bad the defense was and how bad the coaching on that side of the ball was, more so than him like, oh boy, here we go on our own 20-yard line. Let me go for it on 4th and 15.
I hope you're right.
Yeah, same. I hope I'm right too.
I hope the Cowboys go 10-6. Well, it won't be 10-6. 17 game, 10-7 or 11-6.
You know how long it's going to take me to get the math right on that?
It's going to take me forever. I'm going to be
3 years. I'll be like, oh, finally, I'm comfortable with getting the 17-game schedule right.
Finally, I want to get your thoughts on, and I know we had the PGA Fantasy Challenge. Have you congratulated Shannon for her championship?
I congratulated her on Twitter, but in person and on air, congratulations,
Thank
Shannon.
you. It means a lot.
So, and like I told Shannon, beating me in a fantasy golf thing is nothing. I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to golf, but beating you and beating Andy Everett. Andy Everett is no longer our golf guru. So Shannon is now our golf guru, and Andy is our golf aficionado.
Yeah, he's a connoisseur.
He's a passive golf fan. Yes. So speaking of golf, and Shannon and I talked about it earlier, it's all over the internet. Brooks Koepka being interviewed during the PGA Championship by the Golf Channel, and apparently Bryson DeChambeau is nearby and off camera, and it just dead ends the train of thought of Koepka. He rolls his eyes. He utters an expletive referring to Bryson DeChambeau. These guys don't like each other, and I kind of like that they don't like each other.
Yeah. Well, I think Bryson walked by and said something. I think he murmured under his breath. He said something, called him Brooksy, where he said something demeaning to Koepka. He had to. I know Koepka doesn't like him anyway. He doesn't like his presence to be around him. But you're not in the middle of an interview and that distracted by somebody walking by you.
Yeah.
Without them saying something, and it just completely throws you off. And you're like, all right, let's just restart this whole bleeping thing. All right. So I think Bryson kind of poked the bear a little bit.
Yeah.
And we got a great reaction out of Koepka because of it. But I don't think the PGA likes. I think the whole PGA Tour is annoyed with what Bryson DeChambeau brings. And I kind of like that. I like the instigator. I like someone who's not going to back down from the way he's going to do things. It's kind of like the Kobe. I'm not comparing DeChambeau and Kobe, but Kobe was the villain. He knew he was the villain. He embraced the villain role. He went out there, kicked butt anyway. And DeChambeau's kind of doing that as well. He's kind of he's writing his own history. He's not doing it the traditional way. Golfers aren't liking that, but he's going to do it anyway. Now, I don't root for DeChambeau because of that. I mean, I'm on Team Koepka for sure, but I respect that and I like that about the game, and I like that there's a rivalry. I definitely like that. It brings an extra competitive edge to it.
When I would think now that this video is going viral, obviously DeChambeau sees it,
right?
So I would imagine he's going to turn up. I mean, he's going to now want to do what's the next thing, what's the next act in this dance between these two.
And golf is such a mental sport anyway. If you can get the mental edge on any one player, like Tiger's mental edge was, I'm wearing red on Sunday. If I'm 15 strokes behind and I'm making a run at you, you can hear me from hole one. You can hear the crowd chanting Tiger. By the time you're on hole 10 across the entire course, you can still hear the roars of what I'm doing. And that was his mental edge, just being himself. And players would collapse. Players would just drop strokes like left and right when Tiger's up and coming on Sunday. So if there's a mental edge to be had in golf, players are definitely going to take advantage of that.
Going to be fun to continue to track the rivalry between Brooks Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau. Tanner Carlson, a great follow on Twitter at Tanner Carlson 20. And Tanner, you give out golf advice. You give out
don't take any
gambling
golf
advice.
Don't take any advice from me, but I can say go drink a 6-pack, have a good time on the course, and have a good time. That's my only advice to you. But also, hey, Mavericks Clippers tonight.
I was gonna say,
how do you feel?
I think the Mavs have this series. I'm saying Mavs in 6.
Hope you're right.
I'm saying Mavs in 6.
Please.
And I think Mavs in 6, and I definitely think that Luka has the advantage. The only way the Clippers can beat the Mavs here, just real quickly, is if Kawhi focuses 100% of his time and effort and energy on Luka on the defensive side of the ball, and Paul George has to make shots.
Okay.
They have to rely on Paul George's offense, because if Kawhi's doing too much on defense, he's not going to have that fourth quarter energy to score the points that they need to in the fourth quarter. But Paul George in the playoffs, I'm not scared, not one little bit of pandemic P in the playoffs. So I'm going Mavs in 6.
I hope you're right. Clippers, Mavs tonight, 9:40 on NBA TV. Tanner Carlson at Tanner Carlson 20 on Twitter. Outstanding stuff as always, sir.
Did you get a tan?
Not that I'm aware of.
You look darker.
So I'm not wearing
good.
And you got the memo. It's no baseball cap wearing Tuesday. None of us, Ayler, you, me, Shannon, none of us, all of us
Fantastic.
are showing our hair.
Yeah. Well,
so I think that's why I've got I have so much of a forehead when I'm not wearing a baseball. It's like, man, is that a tan or is that you just have you have such a big forehead?
Good. I thought you were in the gym this weekend or by the pool or something.
Called a receding hairline. That's what it's called. All right. Thank you, Tanner.
Yep.
Quick break. Coming up, we are going to get into this. We talked about it, teased it, but did not get into it yet. The WNBA, a coach is suspended for making a comment about an opposing player's weight. And then she comes back and goes a little racial on him. We'll walk you through that and have a discussion about who's wrong, who's right, and should this stand. Lots more coming. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show.
You know what's funny about the fantasy thing is I was this close. I really was thinking, you know what? I'll take Phil. Just for
Oh my God.
Just for giggles.
That would have been the brilliant. That would have been brilliant.
Just for giggles. Just like, you know
Yeah.
what? I'm going to take Phil, man. I was this close.
That
to
would have
doing
been
it,
so cool.
And then I went away with it because I was actually going to choose Justin Thomas, which thank goodness I didn't.
Yeah.
But when Andy took him with a pick ahead of me, it threw me off, and I was going to go Phil right there, and then I just was looking down the list of players, and the first one that popped in my head was
Wow. Well, that's why I took Jimmy Walker. I said, all right, local Bernie guy.
Yeah.
I don't strategically, that's probably not a good pick, but and my thought was, what if I pick him and this is the tournament that he shines?
And that's what's so great about it is you can always, like, even Ricky Fowler wasn't supposed to do anything. He finished in the top 10.
Yeah.
So that for me was like, all right, like that was better than I thought he was going to do. So,
Well, and it's so amazing how it flipped. Like you did this, like two rounds in, you did the standings. It's like you and I were like up here.
Yeah.
And then it just totally flipped in the other direction.
It was so up and down. The whole tournament was, I mean, even individual rounds, Speed would be 3 over, and then I look at the scorecard again, and he's 1 under.
Yeah.
And then he's even, and I'm like, dude, what's going on? I don't think there were very many pars in general. I think it was either birdie or bogey.
Yeah.
Basically for everybody.
Yeah.
But it was a fun tournament.
That was fun.
And watching, watching Phil and that crowd, it almost seemed for a whole 2 hours that COVID never existed.
Yeah.
The sports world was 100%. Everything just seemed normal. I was so entrenched in watching that whole series play out.
Yeah.
Watching him and Kepka on the last final stretch. I was like, man, this is like 100% normal feeling.
It really was.
It was great.
Yeah. Hopefully that's foreshadowing the rest of the season, especially NFL and college.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right, man.
That was great stuff.
Yep.
Thanks.
Friday, October 22nd, the Friday of the Formula One race, 21 pilots playing that night.
That was just added? Okay.
That Friday, 21 pilots at the Joel that Saturday.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
I was told you missed the birthday today on May 25th, 1977. Star Wars was released.
Oh,
Star Wars birthday.
it's Star Wars birthday, May 25th, 1977. Wow.
Are you going to mention that 21 pilots then?
Well, and I don't know a lot of 21 Pilots. You want to come back with 21 Pilots? Yeah. I don't know them. How did you come across that alert? Did that go to your phone? But how did you get it? I mean, how did you know how did that get your attention at 8:20?
I was scrolling through my Facebook feed.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I like breaking news. Okay, I need that story.
All right, how about we do this? I'll come back with a regular phone. You can call for breaking news. I got this like old time news bed,
Oh, that's great.
and then you can mention 21 pilots.
Yeah, I do, and we'll see if we like this one. Okay. Yeah, no, I've always and I've tried this before. It is try to develop either a kitschy or a funny breaking news bed. So, well, good. So if we like this one, we'll keep this as the breaking news bed. Carl Fisher, AJ Green, Mike Garcia, the Grizz are fun to watch. John Morant, Kyle Anderson, Dylan Brooks. Yeah. Gosh, man, Spurs had a shot against the Grizzlies in that opening play-in game. I think the final was 100-96, but good for them. I wanted to see one of the play-in teams at a 9 or 10 slot. Obviously, I wanted it to be the Spurs. Wanted to see one of them get in and then do some damage. And certainly the Grizzlies did that in game number 1 against the Jazz. But yeah, they do have a fun team. You add Jonas Valanciunas to the guys you mentioned. They've got some players that can hurt you. Ja Morant, Dylan Brooks, Jonas Valanciunas. As Spurs fans, we don't think of Kyle Anderson as a big weapon, but man, he hit some key 3-point shots against the Spurs in that play-in game. It's like, where were these when you were a Spur, Kyle Anderson? Slow-mo. When you draft a player and his nickname is Slow-mo, that's a little troubling. I'm just saying. Here we come. Taco Tuesday on the Chris Duel Show, along with Shannon, Salty Sweeney, Dave Ayler, your trusty soundscape stylist, making the entire show go. And before we get into a really strange story coming out of the NBA involving a coach getting suspended for in the game making a crack about another player's weight. Before we do that, Shannon, I do believe Dave Ayler tells me we've got breaking news.
Enlighten me.
Woo. Thank you, Dave, for the breaking news bed. Dave Ayler, who is on top of all of this, big Austin area Circuit of the Americas news. The Circuit of the Americas Formula One race coming to Austin this October. We already know that Billy Joel is going to be one of the acts. They have now added another act. Apparently on October 22nd, the act will be, in addition to Billy Joel, who will headline for music on October 23rd at Circuit of the Americas. The night before, on the 22nd, they have added 21 Pilots. Are you excited by 21 Pilots? Here's a little 21 Pilots music from Dave Ayler.
Their most popular song that I know of, at least, is Stressed Out, and that song indeed stressed me out. They won a couple Grammys for that album, but I don't see them as great performers. I don't see them as exciting. I think you've had Britney Spears and Bruno Mars and Justin Timberlake and Stevie Wonder and Taylor Swift and 21 Pilots. No, that's I thought you were gonna say that they were gonna open for Billy Joel, because JT had an opener at his show. They're more opener status for me when I think of how many people go and how big that event is. It's a world event. I don't know, maybe 21 Pilots are just more popular elsewhere in the world that I'm not aware of. So that makes them a candidate for an event that is an all-world event.
Now, Yolanda Bermea just wrote this on Facebook Live. She said, our whole family loves 21 Pilots. They released a new album on Friday. So maybe there is a big fan. And it's kind of interesting that she said our whole family loves them. That's kind of cool. If you've got a family and you're going out to Circuit of the Americas and everybody can enjoy 21 Pilots.
Yeah,
So.
Like I said, I don't know how big they really are. So it might be a fantastic choice. But for name recognition alone, I'm a little confused.
That's a little odd. And one more thing before we move on to this odd story in the WNBA. Somebody called Dave Ayler when I did birthdays today. Apparently today is the birthday of Star Wars. Star Wars apparently debuted in theaters on May 25th, 1977. So I blew off the Star Wars birthdays. Woe is me. My bad.
I guess you didn't attend.
I don't know if I saw it on opening. Day. I don't know that I saw it on opening day, but it was a big deal. I was 16 and I did see it, within the first week or two. It was a pretty big deal at the time. Yeah. So, and everybody obviously loved it and the rest is history. So happy birthday, Star Wars. All right, Shannon. And this is a great topic, I think, for us to talk about because it involves men and women. It involves race. It involves basketball. You played basketball. So a WNBA head coach, the head coach of the Connecticut Sun, the Connecticut Sun is playing the Las Vegas Aces. Aces used to be the San Antonio Stars, previously the San Antonio Silver Stars, before they moved to Las Vegas. The Aces have a center. She was the number 2 overall draft in the 2011 WNBA draft. Her name is Liz Cambage, and Liz Cambage is a big basketball player. She weighs about 235, and apparently the coach of the Connecticut Sun, Kurt Miller, didn't like one of the calls during the game, and he was complaining to the official that the call went against his player, who apparently was a smaller player, and Kurt Miller apparently said to the ref, come on, she's 300 pounds, talking about her weight. He has since been suspended by the WNBA for citing her weight. Now, there's a whole issue. That's issue number one. A man who's a gentleman doesn't, slam or shame any woman, ideally not any man, but certainly not a woman about her weight. But then she goes on social media and she writes, I'm very proud of being a big B, starts with a B, rhymes with ditch. I'm very proud of being a big B. I will never let a man disrespect me ever, 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 especially a little white one. So she goes racial there. So let's start with, we'll go racial in a second, and kind of maybe a double standard or a reverse racial standard there. But it's, I have a feeling, Shannon, that Coach Kurt Miller, who's probably coached men before he coached women, just a guess, but I guess I could Google him and find out. He's a coach arguing with a ref over what he thought was a bad call and thought that his smaller player did not get the call and that the bigger player got the benefit of the call. And he said, come on, she's 300 pounds. How egregious was this in your view?
I don't think it was. I mean, that's an argument that coaches make all of the time when a call doesn't go their way. Oh, look how small they are. Oh, look how big they are. Did he maybe need to reference the weight number he thinks she's at? And I'm actually looking at her WNBA page, and she's only listed at 216. Yourself, I believe.
Yeah, TMZ is saying 235. Okay.
But so I don't blame him for arguing the call. I think the saying, the weight was a bit wrong, but I also don't think it's worth being suspended over.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think he just missaid it. And again, he didn't break a rule. He hurt someone's feelings. Feelings get hurt all the time in sports.
Yes. Well, and that goes back to A League of Their Own when Tom Hanks says there's no crying in baseball. Yeah. And it's almost, if in the WNBA, you're going to be a professional basketball player, and clearly Liz Cambage is, and a high level and one of the best players in the league. I just can't. Can you be offended by a coach saying this? And to me, it sounds like coach speak. I'm a man, and I was brought up never to disrespect a woman, obviously, consciously. And secondly, one of the territories you don't get into is weight. But I don't, to me, if this were guys and he says this, nobody would blink about it. If he were saying this about Shaq or somebody.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's because we're used to trading men's basketball cards, right? Where all that information is put, their height and weight, it's all part of what makes them either good or bad, or that the combine. I mean, they put those guys in leotards for that entire workout. You don't think people aren't commenting about their weight? And she's a professional athlete, so it's public information how tall she is and how much she weighs each season. So I think suspending him is a little far. And then I think her taking it to social media just to continue it. I don't know. This is probably the most pubs she ever had. So she's like, why not, gas the flame there and keep it going.
Well, and again, just if we're going to talk about race and we're going to be fair about race, one of the things she said, and first of all, she said, and then she says, I'm very proud of being a big, and she uses the B word. So she's saying, I'm a big woman and I'm proud of it. First of all, so he said 300 and you're listed at 216. Okay, so but then when she says, quote, I will never let a man disrespect me ever, 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 especially a little white one. You're saying, so she has an issue that not only did a man disrespect her, but this is a little man and this is a little white man disrespecting me. Now, obviously, African Americans in this country have been oppressed for 400 years or more if you go all the way back. I kind of get it. I understand the angst, and I understand taking a stand, and if you feel someone disrespects you, you're not going to do it. But I do find it interesting if roles were reversed and she were white and Kurt Miller were a black man, and she said, I'll never let a man disrespect me, especially a little black man. I mean, my God, there would be a firestorm there. I'm not outraged by her saying that. I kind of get it. I see it. It's an interesting take, but I kind of find the double standard a little bit. If we're all going to evolve when it comes to race, and when we're angry at somebody, maybe not cite their race, that we're angry at them. What Liz did here, she cited his race. She's angry at him. He ticked her off. So she's going to call him a little man, and she's going to call him a little white man. I don't know that I love it. Now, does that warrant a suspension? No. And I agree with you. Neither does it Kurt Miller. Now, if Kurt Miller, after the fact, the coach, were sensitive, whether he was prompted by the team, the Connecticut Sun, or not, Kurt Miller should have released a statement going, you know what, heat of the moment, I was wrong. I need to see the big picture better, and I regret saying that, and I apologize. How expensive is an apology? It's not. I apologize to Liz Cambridge. He should have said that.
Yeah, I saw he did say something, but I don't think it was directly to her. I think it was just kind of a statement. He was like, I've been empowering women for 35 years being a coach. I should be continuing to, that was the kind of what we have so far anyway. And again, it's like that. Why incite it anymore than it already is? I'm not against you standing up for yourself. It's the inciting more and adding more fuel to the fire when it's just not necessary. If you were that upset by what he said, why are we putting more attention on it?
But it is kind of fascinating. You look at, in this case, the WNBA, and you have a universe of women competing, and in a lot of these cases, there are these male coaches. And somebody brought up the point, let's flip these roles, and what if Becky Hammon was the head coach and will be a head coach in the NBA in the very same situation? If there's a big player out there, let's say it's Boban or Jonas Valanciunas, and she goes, oh my God, how did we not get that call? What, does Boban weigh like 400 pounds? We don't blink. If Becky Hammon is saying that against Boban Marjanovic.
You don't. Because again, I think weight very much is part of the game, and did he get called like for a technical right then?
I don't think.
If he didn't get called for technical, why are we suspending?
Yeah, I think this happened after the fact. I think somebody pointed it out. The Connecticut Sun suspended him.
Clearly didn't think it was any sort of taunting or anything like that.
Yeah, it was coach speak.
Yeah.
In the heat of the moment, it was an angry coach barking at a call the ref made. So anyway, I just thought it was fascinating. I think it opens up discussions on gender sensitivities, men to women, women to men, and now racial, just based on, what she had to say about a little white man. All right. So there's that. And again, nobody should be suspended, but I think people should be a little more aware. That's all. All right, Shannon, speaking of aware, we are aware that both LA teams in the NBA are on the brink tonight, both of them trying to avoid falling into an 0-2 hole in their respective playoff series. What does our poll question tell us?
We've got more votes coming the way of the Clippers and the Lakers getting the win tonight with 26%, 20% believing the Lakers and the Clippers will lose, 6% saying the Lakers will win, Clippers will lose, and now 46% saying Clippers win, Lakers lose.
46% say adios Lakers tonight. I think that's a little. It's a huge one for the Lakers, and that one is 9:10 on TNT. As we mentioned, it's a TNT doubleheader. Early game 6:40. Boston at Brooklyn. Brooklyn leads 1-0. Late game on TNT. Lakers at Phoenix. Phoenix leads 1-0. And the one game out of the three I want to watch: Clippers hosting Dallas at 9:40. Dallas up 1-0. That's on NBA TV. Not that can't let it go. All right. And
I get it.
I'll tell you what I will be watching at 7:10 tonight. First pitch, Fox Sports 1, Astros, Dodgers, one of two games. We'll see if any Dodger fans bring trash cans to Minute Maid Park tonight.
You know what would be great is, how baseball stadiums typically give out like the first 500 people tonight get whatever bobblehead. And sometimes they do the replica rings. It'd be so hilarious if that was the giveaway tonight to give replica rings, because I feel like they do that once a season. Come on.
Do it.
Do it.
In your face to the Dodgers. I love the idea. I love it. Shannon, outstanding as always.
Oh, thank you, sir. You as well.
We'll do this again in 21 hours. Dave Ayler, you rock. Even though you have no insignia on your T-shirt, I look for an upgrade in your T-shirt game tomorrow morning. I'm just saying. No pressure. Yeah. Just get it out of the dirty laundry and just throw it on. It's radio. Nobody can smell us on the radio. It's cool. Our thanks to Tanner Carlson. Have yourself a great Taco Tuesday. Go eat tacos. And we will see you in 21 hours. Go Astros. Adios.